Okay, I think we are live. Yep. How are you, Chris? This is
Good.
Chris Johnston from England, everyone.
Good evening. Or good
Good to see
day.
you.
And you. And you.
So
Yeah.
it's 10 p.m. over where you are, and I'm in the
Yeah.
US in New York, so it's 5 p.m. over here, 5
Yeah.
p.m. Eastern time. So I'm so happy that I got you for this chat. So
No,
I know that
yeah.
you're a Clapton aficionado, and we've got a ton of Clapton stories that we can tell, and we've got some special guests that we're going to have on in a little
Excellent.
bit. But I guess we should just start with how we know each other and then get into how we got into Clapton and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
th- I think we met each other through an Eric Clapton fan page called Eric Clapton Worldwide, right?
That's right. Yeah. And I think I saw your post about looking for a custom shop Clapton Strat in either Mercedes Blue or Midnight Blue. And it
Yeah,
have a flame neck.
right. Yeah, I've always liked Eric Clapton's guitars from the '90s when he had those flamed Fender Strat necks, which only the custom shop really makes.
Yeah.
Fender Custom Shop, and they're usually either custom shop or master built.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of different types of custom shop you can get. You can get what they call team built guitars or master
Right,
built guitars, which is basically one person making it from start to finish. And I think that like you say, the flame necks or the AAA or the quadruple A flames seem to be only produced by the master builders, if you like.
right, right. I see we have John Rowe in the chat. John Rowe, I think, is the host or the administrator of that Eric Clapton. I forget what M stands for, but it could be just worldwide. Yeah, I forget what the full title is, but it's an amazing group. Hey, Ron. Hey, Godfrey.
Good evening, guys.
So, so let's talk about how we got into Eric Clapton. If you'd like to go first.
Yeah, well, I mean, I started. It must have been about when I was about 9 or 10, back in '87. I, I was aware of guitars, and I wasn't really into music at that time, but I was kind of aware of guitars and was kind of like, interested by them. Um, I had my dad had an album, which was curious, and I thought, what's that? And it was actually August. It was Eric Clapton August. Um, and I think at the time, say back then, this is about 1987, if my memory serves me correctly. It was either Father's Day or a birthday gift, and I said to my mum, "What can we get him?" So we ended up buying him the Cream of Eric Clapton because it had just come out. I think it was September '87 it came out, and I listened to it more than he did. And it was profound for me. That was like the first big thing for me. And then obviously, there was no internet, there was no DVD or anything like that. It was all either cassette or videotape. So I then obviously started to listen to August because obviously I was intrigued by that because obviously that came out a year before in '86. So I started listening to that, and then I think it was at that time my parents had got a video player. I didn't, a VCR. So I then found all I could with, like videos available at the time. And I think the first major video that I see was one close to both yours and my heart is the Birmingham gig in the NEC with Phil Collins, Nathan, and Greg. And again, I think I wore that out. I had to buy a couple of copies of it. I just wore it out over and over again, watched it, and then started to sort of investigate, other things, like the Arms concert, for example. I saw that. Obviously, that was in '83, and then obviously going back, obviously listening to the Cream of Eric Clapton, it was like it had different periods. So I started to go back and back and back, to the Yardbirds, then obviously to Cream, and then Derek and the Dominoes, and then obviously his solo stuff. And I don't know, there was something about his playing. I mean, I was listening, I got kind of brought up on rock and roll, a bit of country and western from my parents, like Chuck Berry and those sort of people. But I don't know, I think it was maybe because he was an English guy, doing all the stuff that the American guys were doing. and I just was captivated by it, and then
Yeah.
started. I thought, well, it wasn't enough for me to just listen to it. I wanted to play it as well. So at that time, I was about to go into senior school, and one of the things that but choosing music was you can choose an instrument to play, and I just played the guitar. I wanted to play the guitar, and that's how I kind of started, really. I had basic lessons. There was no real sort of formality to it. It was just basic lessons, and I just kind of taught myself. As I said, there was no internet. There was no there's no sort of like teach yourself guitar, or I just kind of watch videos. I can remember a funny story, actually turning my mum and dad's television upside down, because that was what I saw when I'm standing there playing the guitar. That's what I see, and I just mimicked it. And then all of a sudden, the telly started to go green, because I think the tubes were the wrong way round. So I quickly back again. But yeah, so that's kind of how I started. So was it the same for you? I mean, maybe it was a little bit different.
My dad got me a nylon guitar when I was 5, and he taught me Hotel California, the chords to it, and a song by the Doobie Brothers called China Grove. I don't know if you know that song.
I do,
It's a
yeah.
very good song. So the China Grove was the first song that I ever learned how to play. And so I learned how to play those 2 songs in that first night. And then the second thing I remember was getting Fleetwood Mac's Rumors album, which is just an amazing album, song-wise, guitar-wise. Lindsey Buckingham is just unbelievable, and he does what the song needs, and that's what some of our favorite guitarists understand.
Yeah.
And so Lindsey Buckingham was really my first guitar hero, I would say. And then after that, I think, so that was 1996, 1997. I was about 5 or 6 years old.
So a little bit after me then.
Yeah. And then I think I saw the Clapton DVD when he did 1999 Crossroads at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah.
The famous concert where he does Layla, the most viewed version of Layla on YouTube.
Yeah.
So I think that was it for me. That concert and the Clapton Birmingham concert that you mentioned before from 1986, where he's with Phil Collins, Nathan East, and Greg Philliganes. That's just one of the best bands that he ever had.
I think Phil Collins called it the Heaven Band. I think it was.
Well, he would be right.
Yeah.
Oh, we have to say a quick hello to Vito, Oliva, how's it going? John Getty, Ben Stein, how's it going, guys? Yannick.
Guys.
Yannick is very active in our Eric Clapton groups, and he posts a lot of great content, from videos to articles. Today he posted an article about Chris Stainton, who got a Rolling Stone feature for his work with Joe Cocker and Eric Clapton and a bunch of people. And we should talk about Chris Stainton at some point, because he's been with him for like 30 plus years.
I think 40 years actually. Yeah, it's just, I mean, as long as I can remember, he was at the Arms gig. The Arms, that was 1983. Yeah. I mean, I think he first met Eric in about 78 or 79. I think. So, but yeah, he's been pretty much a mainstay across the years. Yeah.
So when did you eventually get your first Fender, and was Eric the reason for getting a Fender?
Yeah. I mean, it's that, and I think Mark Knopfler as well. Obviously, because I know he had quite a big influence. When I was at school, there was another guy called Pete Blackwell who I'm friends with, and he was a guitarist, and I was obviously a starting guitarist, and he was very much like into Mark Knopfler, and I was into Eric Clapton. It was kind of like it was like the first little band we had, a little sort of a duo kind of thing. And we kind of complemented each other. But yeah, my first guitar, or the same as you, I had a nylon string guitar, like a Spanish guitar, because my mum and dad thought it was going to be a 5-minute wonder. And this was about, as I say, 1988, something like that, 89, which I got this guitar, and I couldn't leave it alone. And then I was on about, really want to get an electric guitar, and obviously by this time I was heavily into Clapton. And I knew that the Clapton Strat had come out in '88, but I knew it was going to be, far too expensive for them. But I thought I'd try my luck, see if I can get one. But we went to Denmark Street, in London. This was, I can't remember if it was Christmas 90 or Christmas 91. I can't remember. Because by this time I'd borrowed guitars from school and you know, bits and pieces and friends, and just you know, just to try them and play them. And I knew it had to be a Strat. Ideally I wanted a maple neck, because obviously that's what, you know, I gravitated to with Eric. And it had to be either black, or if I could find one, pewter. Obviously that was the colour he was using at the time. And we come across a few Eric Clapton Strats, but at the time I think they were something like £1,000 or £1,100. They were, you know, quite a lot of money. I mean, it's still quite a lot of money now. But I walked into a shop called Boogie, and this was it. This was the one. There was two of them actually, and it was on the wall. And this had a slightly bit more figuring to the neck. But I thought, well, it's the closest I'm going to get to a Clapton Strat by look and feel, even though it's just a standard Strat.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked both of them up, and this was one I gravitated to, and here we are 30 years later, and I still play it and still use it, and it's, you know, it's I take care of it, it takes care of me, and you know, it's got a couple of little marks and scratches on it, but you know, for a used guitar,
looks great.
It's good shape, you know, and it sounds great. It sounds really good. Yeah, I mean, that's my first guitar, and I will never ever. I think I'll be buried with this.
That's a good first guitar to have. That's definitely a good. That's a good investment.
Very lucky.
My first guitar was $100 Aria Pro, ARIA.
Yeah.
Aria Pro 2, which is a Stratocaster copy, a Fender Strat copy. And it played well and it sounded fine. I mean, I didn't know much back then when I was 5 or 6. I just wanted an electric guitar, and I got whatever was in the store. And I guess my parents thought the same thing, that it would be just a quick thing and maybe I wouldn't stick with it. But
a 5-minute wonder,
yeah, exactly. So after that, I got a black Samick, which is also a Stratocaster copy.
Yeah.
And that one had a rosewood neck, and seeing Eric play with the maple neck, I needed to have one of my own. And then it was watching the Birmingham DVD that you mentioned before, Eric Clapton and Friends 1986, and he does this performance of White Room, which is like the second or third number in the set.
Yeah.
And he just rips into that solo, and I said, Dad, I need to get a Fender. I need to get a Fender. And it's going to make me a better player.
Yeah.
And I did take it more seriously when I got more expensive gear. It's not the case for everyone, but we went down to 48th Street in Manhattan, which was the musician street, and that's where Manny's music was and Rudy's music.
Yeah, I went. Yeah.
Those are like legendary music stores for the stars. Jimi Hendrix would walk in and buy guitars. David Gilmour supposedly bought his black Strat there.
Yeah,
Clapton bought a wah-wah pedal at Manny's that he used on Tales of Brave Ulysses, which was the first song with a wah-wah ever, to my knowledge.
Yeah.
And then the following day, after Eric released Tales of Brave Ulysses, I think Jimi Hendrix released Voodoo Child. So Jimmy was just one day too late. So anyway, we went down to 48th Street in Manhattan, and there was a Sam Ash over there. And there was a custom shop Eric Clapton Fender Strat on the wall, and I played it, and it played amazingly. It sounded great, and it had the late sensors just like Eric's had.
Yeah.
And this is 2002. So for anyone who's into guitar or into Eric Clapton, they'll know that Eric Clapton signature guitars first came with the Fender lace sensors, which he used on the Journeyman, 24 Nights, through the 90s period. Yeah. And then in the early 2000s, like 2001, 2002, he switched over to a different pickup, the Fender Vintage Noiseless pickups, which don't have any buzz or hum, but they do have a different sound. So anyway, the point of the story was I tried out this guitar. It was great, but it was like $3,000. And I was 12 in 2003. And I don't think my parents wanted to spend $3,000 on a guitar, you know, going up from $100 guitar to a $3,000 guitar. That's a pretty big jump.
Yeah, yeah.
So I think what happened was my dad or I asked Sam Ash to put the guitar on hold. And a couple of days later, it was on a weekend, we received a phone call early in the morning. It was like 9 a.m. on a Saturday or a Sunday. And it was Sam Ash. We said, hi, it's blah, blah, blah from Sam Ash. We just wanted to let you know that John Mayer walked in and bought your guitar.
No, why?
And at that point, John Mayer had his Room for Squares album, which came out a couple of years before that. So he was already a household name,
Yeah.
but he wasn't, you know, the star that he is today at this point.
Yeah.
But still, I was like, John Mayer just bought my guitar, even though I didn't put down any money on it. I just asked them to kind of reserve it.
Yeah.
So for the rest of my life, I have this vendetta against John Mayer, and I want that guitar. and there's something about having a Fender guitar with the original Contour body logo that's so much cooler than having the signature of the artist on the regular standard models.
Yeah.
So what Sam Ash eventually ended up doing was they said, well, we can order you another guitar. And I said, great. But it wasn't Custom Shop. It was the factory model, the standard.
The Artist Series one.
The Artist Series, Eric Clapton signatures. And that cost $1,300 back in 2003. Now they're the same guitar for $1,700 because of inflation.
Yeah.
So I said, great, order me the guitar. And we placed the order. And around the holidays, around Christmas time, the guitar came to my house. I opened up the case like a kid, because I was a kid. I was 12. And I open up the case and I look at this guitar and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And then I look at the pickups. And what pickups do you think they are?
Noiseless.
It's the Fender Vintage Noiseless.
Yeah.
And so what did I do as a 12-year-old? I cried. I just got a very expensive guitar, the most expensive guitar at that point. And, you know, very lucky that my parents bought it for me for the holidays. And I cried because it didn't match what Eric was playing. Yeah. I didn't know that he switched pickups at that point. And everything online, on samash.com, on sweetwater.com, on Music123, Z-Sounds, all those websites, all the images of the Eric Clapton Strat showed the guitar with the lace sensors. Yeah. Their databases weren't updated to show or reflect the updated changes from Fender. Yeah. So I called Sam Ash crying, I guess. So I was crying until it was fixed. I was crying and I said, why doesn't this match Eric's guitar on this DVD cover? Why isn't it the same? They said Fender updated, or Eric asked Fender to update it, and this is the new thing. They discontinued these Fender lace sensors. So what I ended up doing was I went to Fender Lace Sensors website. I forget which it is. It could be just like Lace or Fender Lace.
I think it's Don Lace was originally, there was a collaboration between Fender and Don Lace.
Yeah.
And that's why, like on like these ones, you'll see it's a Fender lace sensor, but on the lace sensors you buy now, it just says lace sensor. But
right.
But yeah, I think it was the reason why they stopped using it was because I think there were the contract had run out in either 1999 or 2000 between Fender and Lace. Right. And Fender obviously realizing they could probably make a pickup the same or very similar to the lace sensor, they come out with the noiseless pickups.
Right. So I just looked up the website. It's lacemusic.com. So if you wanted to look for those Fender lace sensors and install them in your guitar, you can go to lacemusic.com.
Yeah.
Someone's calling my house. It's okay. It's all right. So what happened was I ordered 3 pickups, 3 Fender lace sensors or lace sensor pickups from that website, and they were delivered. And my dad, who's an engineer and he fixes aircraft for a living.
Wow.
So this is easy for him. Doing all that electrical wiring and soldering, he was doing that when he was a kid. That's not something that I understood until recently. And So we bought the pickups. They were delivered, and then my dad installed the 3 pickups. So thank you, Dad. and then I stopped crying finally after he installed them, and the guitar finally matched what Eric was playing. And then I just dug into all of these videos. I started buying all of Eric's DVDs and just trying to play along with what he was doing.
Yeah.
And studying his parts. It was only later when I started listening to what his other band members were doing. Yeah. Because at that point, you're just a guitar player, and you just want to be the best guitar player that you can be.
Yeah.
So that was my kind of trajectory with that. Yeah. And that's the only Eric Clapton Strat I own. But as you know, and that's how we got connected, I'm looking to get a Midnight Blue Custom Shop or a pewter Custom Shop Strat.
Yeah. That's I think if I was to sort of, if you was asking me what is the best color, I think the pewter is the best color. I think it looks classy. It looks when the light hits it. It looks beautiful. I was never a real fan of like the crash guitars, like the graffiti guitars that he had. I just think, I don't know. For me personally, I think they looked cheap. But that's just me.
One of our viewers, Godfrey Townsend, has a similar opinion as you, and yeah. I think we might hear from him in a little bit. Yeah. So yeah, Crash Matos was the artist who designed those guitars.
Yeah.
And he made so many of them. There were 3 main ones. I think Eric sold a couple of them. I don't know if he still has the original one, the Rainbow Crash Strat.
No, I think he has that. It was Crash 1, Crash 2, which had like a purple sort of section on it. And Crash 2 was literally, that was auctioned at the 2004 auction. I think it was like, because I actually saw him one of the first nights at the Albert Hall. I think it was a Cancer Trust gig. And at the Albert Hall, say 2004, and he come on and he done Before You Accuse Me.
Zucchero?
Pardon?
With Zucchero?
No, it wasn't Zucchero. No, it was another one you mean, another concert you mean. But no, this was a different one. He had like a greyish suit on with a black shirt.
Yes, I know it. Yeah.
And he come on, and I'm sure he done Before You Accuse Me and Stormy Monday, and one other. And that was, I think, the first. I think it was September the 15th, 2004. I think date of it. And I was like literally just sitting on the corner there, and he come on. I thought, what's that? So new guitar, because it was intriguing to me because it had black pickups, it had black noises pickups, and normally they're white. And I obviously want to try and get a bit more of a glimpse of it. But that guitar, I think the last time it was played was the Crossroads Festival. After that, it got put into the auction.
Right.
Oh, I'm sure it's the 2004 auction.
What are your thoughts on the most recent Crash guitar from the 2019 or 2020? Yeah, 2019 festival.
Yeah, again, for me, I'd have a solid colour any day of the week rather than his latest one, the almond green colour, which is actually an Aston Martin colour. Yeah, it's just beautiful. It's lovely. It just looks classy. So when the light hits it, it looks lovely, really nice.
Right, and he gets to get all those custom colors from either Fender, and they reach out to Ferrari or Mercedes or BMW, and
yeah. Well, I mean, pewter was actually I'm led to believe a Mercedes color. I think he had that. This was a Mercedes he had at the time, say 86, and that was the color he chose, because he chose for the first run of his guitars was this, obviously Torino red, which is a Ferrari color, I'm led to believe, and then the candy green, which is like 7-Up green.
Yeah, which he only used in that one or 2 performances when he was dressed as the Joker on David Sanborn's show.
Yeah. In about 89, wasn't he done Old Love and Hard Times, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that's quite a nice colour as well, the green. It's all subjective. Everyone has their own opinions, but I just think the Crash guitars. I'm sure there's people out there that disagree with me. But everyone's got different tastes with the colors, and the guitars pretty much sound the same because they have the same electronics throughout the years. Yeah, it's still an older body. It's still a maple neck. It's still got the 25 decibel boost. Obviously, a few changes. Like on the later Custom Shop Strats, like the middle tone pot used to have a detent and a 5,
Yep.
which sort of worked in conjunction with the mid-range boost. But I think now the tone pot from like the Custom Shop ones, certainly not so much the Artist Series, but the Custom Shop Masterbuilt ones are just a standard tone pot, which I think is what he uses.
Yeah, I love the TBX. It just allows you to clean up if you've got a distorted sound or if you're playing with a band and you just need to cut through a little bit more. Yeah, the TBX is great. If you have it all the way up on 10, you could get that kind of Mark Knopfler tone.
Yeah. He's very versatile. And that's Clapton, putting Clapton name aside, that the Clapton Strat or his guitar, I think as a Stratocaster in its own right, is a very, very versatile guitar. The amount of sound you can get out of it is endless. You can get a Les Paul sound out of it. You can get a Tele sound out of it. Obviously a Strat sound out of it. Right. Lots of different permutations. And it's just there's something about it that's I like basic looking guitars. And I think it is because it's based on a 50 Strat at the end of the day, isn't it? It's a 50, 56 or a 57 Strat. Basic kind of like setup that's been hot rodded, but you can't see the hot rodded part because it's inside. Right.
So I actually got those electronics and had them installed in one of my other guitars. You mentioned the mid boost and the TBX, which is just treble bass expander. That's what I believe that stands for. So I added that to another one of my guitars because I just loved having those features. It just makes your guitar more versatile, as you said.
Yeah.
So you can play a song that requires a Strat sound.
Yeah.
And if you need to beef it up, you can. So I could achieve David Gilmour sounds without even using pedals.
Yeah.
Like his sounds at Gdansk in Poland from 2006, just using one guitar. It's just amazing.
Yeah. And it's, and you can find sort of certain sweet spots subject to where you've got the volume and obviously where you've got the tone and where you've got the boost. You don't have to have it fully on all the time. You can just find little nuances that suit certain songs, and that's the versatile part of it. Yeah, I mean it's such a great guitar. It really is, and that's why people like
Townsend.
Use, obviously he's got the extra volume for his, is it piezo or he's got another
piezo, yeah.
But I mean obviously Andy Fairweather Low uses one in
and Phil Palmer had one, right?
Oh yeah, I mean I thought Phil Palmer was one of Eric's best backup guitarists.
I agree. Him and Andy Fairweather are they gave exactly what the song needed. Doyle Bramhall is fantastic. He's just absolutely fantastic, but I feel like he has more of a style.
Yeah.
And you can hear that style, in the songs more. I feel like Andy and Phil played for the song better and have less of a sound.
Yeah.
I guess.
And I actually enjoyed it when Clapton toured with Mark Knopfler, and he was almost like the backup guitarist. I've always kind of wondered why Mark Knopfler's not been invited, or not been invited, but where he hasn't done the Crossroads thing. I think that would be great to see him both play again.
Maybe he just wasn't available, but then again, there have been 4, 5.
Yeah, you think maybe they could get that arranged. But yeah, I would love to see that again.
Have you gone to any Crossroads festivals?
I haven't. No, I would love to. Obviously, I've never been. I've never said that. That's what I mean. I've probably seen Eric. I don't know. Since my first time, which was I said to you earlier, 1994, 28th of February. That was the first time I see him, and I've probably seen him 30 times since at various points.
94, so on the Nothing But the Blues tour.
That's right. Yeah. So
you saw all of those classic guitars that he had.
Pretty much. Yeah. I regret not seeing him, in the late 80s. I mean, I wasn't old enough to go on my own. I was literally 10, 11. I wish I could see him at the Journeyman sort of tour, and I'd love to have seen him at Nebworth.
Oh, yeah, that's an amazing concert. When he breaks the string wearing the
Well,
pink suit.
yeah, I've always wanted a pink suit. I'll still get one. I'll still have one.
Yeah, just do a Clapton show and it's okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But
Just get all the funny Clapton suits.
the
The
Versace
green,
and
the Joker one.
yeah, yeah,
Get all the Versace suits.
that's right. But there are so many. I mean, there's so many things we can talk about performances that you wish you'd seen, concert I wish I've seen. I mean, one that springs to mind. I'd love to have gone to the Bob Dylan 30th anniversary concert. You know, when he does. I mean, he was
Don't
like
think
on
twice.
fire. Oh, he was on fire that night.
Yeah.
He was head and shoulders above everyone else.
I heard somewhere that some people didn't like his performance, including some people on stage, just thought that he overplayed.
Oh, really? He was. He was.
That's what I heard. I disagree with that, but
Oh, massive fan of me. I mean, when I see him, he was like a taut string on a violin. He just wanted to play. He was,
yeah.
he was in the mood.
Right. And that's something that we should also talk about. When he's in the zone, he's untouchable.
Oh,
We know when he's not in the zone because we've studied him for so long. We
yeah.
know when he's having a good night and when he's just kind of phoning it in.
Plodding along and just going through the motions.
Right. But when he's in the zone, it shows why he's him.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I've gotten to see him a couple of times before. I mentioned Crossroads and asked you if you've gone to any Crossroads. I was lucky to go to two of them. The one in Chicago in 2010 when he
Yeah.
plays that amazing "I Shot the Sheriff,"
Yeah,
and
yeah.
Crossroads, which is also on YouTube.
yeah.
But then I also got to see the Crossroads in 2013 in New York when he does "Got to Get Better in a Little While,"
Oh,
which is
that's excellent.
so. I think I said in another chat somewhere else that a lot of the other performers that night, they were playing like acoustic and all their songs were really mellow. And then Eric walks on stage and starts with that song. And then people got on their feet also because Eric, will get people on their feet because he's the host.
Yeah.
So I just remember the whole mood changed when he got on stage, and that song is just high energy.
Oh, it's great.
And his vocals were 110%. He was just singing with so much energy, and his soloing.
Yeah.
He just was very lyrical in his soloing, and when he's at that level again, it's just what makes him great. And the fact that I saw it and I witnessed it, and now I watch it on YouTube, and I was like, this is what it was like.
Yeah.
This is, and I'm so glad that they filmed it and mixed it.
Yeah. And it makes the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. Those times.
Yeah.
I mean, there's so many concerts I can think of that is, how can I explain it? It's just there's some songs that okay, just like you say, going through the motions, and other times he'll almost put it to the red line and just nail it.
Exactly what you just said. So the red line. So it was like he was hitting the red in a like a voltage meter or a volume meter.
Yeah.
His vocals and his guitar playing. I mean, his sound engineer is he gets it. He knows what the audience wants to hear, and when he's taking a solo, he'll raise the fader and make sure that the audience can hear. And when Eric's on like that, it's just unbelievable. And that was an example.
You just saying that you've just reminded me of something. I was very, very fortunate enough to be at the Cream reunion.
Which night?
I was there on the Tuesday night, which was the 3rd of May.
That was the second night. So you saw Stormy Monday.
That's right, and he was wearing a black shirt.
Black? Oh, okay. That's the second night. That was the night that he got badge and deserted Cities of the Heart.
That's it, and he done on White Room.
A White Room. Yeah.
And long story short, a guy that I play with in a band now, which is a function band, a friend Mitch Horner. He knew the sound guy that night, and
is it Robert Collins?
I can't remember his name, but it was basically he managed to get us in. I got a phone call on the Tuesday afternoon. Chris, get to the Albert Hall, we're in, because obviously the tickets were just astronomical. And so I just cancelled whatever I was doing, got to the Albert Hall, met Mitch, and he said, meet us at the stage door, because he'll give us a couple of tickets. So we were sitting in the sound engineer's booth, and literally you couldn't write this. I mean, the tickets were going for something, you know, some of them like £2,000-3,000, just crazy money. And we got put in. We said, look, sit in the sound booth, and I thought, this is not happening. This is unreal. And you saying that about the sound guy, you know, with the faders, I can remember. I can't remember what. I think it might have been White Room, and just watching the guy when he comes up for a solo, you just watch his fader go up, and then the whole room fill with his sound.
Right.
And I mean, I think about it now. It's making me hair to the back. Just amazing. And then literally, this was the sound guy's program, and he gave it to me. Obviously, you can see there, it said working. And
yes.
So yeah, I mean, I've obviously got loads of other like programs for when I've seen them, but this is my most prized one.
That's unbelievable. So when I go to concerts, I try and sit by the sound booth, because that's where it's going to sound the best.
Yeah,
I don't care. I don't need to be right up against the stage, because right up against the stage, you're just hearing the drums really loud and all the rumble.
And aren't you hearing the on-stage sound?
Right. You don't hear the mix, and that's what you go to a concert to hear, the band mixed and feel the performance the way that the sound engineer and the band want to present it. So yeah, I like to sit by the soundboard. And I remember after one Clapton gig, probably the last Clapton gig I saw in 2017, 2018, I was sitting by the soundboard, and I went up to the sound engineer after the show. His name is Robert Collins, who also has like 1 or 2 articles about him on the internet. Mm-hmm. And I said to him, "Great job tonight. Next time, a little less Eric." And he died laughing. Little less Eric. You've been to 30 shows. You know how good it sounds.
Oh, honestly, and you know, and I say when I first the first concert I went to, that one in '94, I was in the gods. I was like literally as high as you could go, because I didn't care. You know, that was the first ticket I got, and I was there. I was in there. But over the years, I've been lucky enough to sit everywhere in the Alps. It's the best place. It's the best place to go. If you've never been there, if you can get there, it's just a lovely venue. But I mean, I've sat in the circle, I've sat in the arena, I've stood up in the gods. But there was one time, it was 2000. This was 2009 as well. I struggled to get tickets, and I couldn't get tickets for love or no money. And there was this was in basically when they were still getting tickets on eBay, where people were changing them. And again, this was it was either a Monday or a Tuesday night, something like that, midweek, and this ticket popped up on there. Literally, can't go. 2 tickets, can't go. If you can collect them, I think the guy lived in London. If you can collect them this afternoon, they're yours. And it was basically, it was right at the front. It was sitting right at the front of his mic, and I took my father-in-law with me. Yeah. And literally, we was looking up Eric's nose. it was that close. It was just amazing. And,
how is the sound? Even though it doesn't really matter.
It was okay. It was, you know, it was okay.
You're in the front row to get that experience, to be that close to your idol.
Yeah, and you know, the sound wasn't as good as obviously when I sat behind. You know, obviously in the sound engineer's booth. But again, I think I got a couple of picks as well somewhere. That I think I managed to get at that time. I think obviously Lee Dickson was his guitar tech, and after then he chucked a couple of picks my way, and yeah, that was cool. But that was an experience. And so one other experience, I think I said to you earlier on, when I see one of his New Year's Eve shows, which was in 2007. Mm-hmm. Again, playing in this kind of sports hall area in Guildford, like
a gymnasium. Yeah,
that's right. I managed to get tickets there, and literally walking up to this stage, which come up to there, it's just like a school almost, you know. Mm-hmm. And then you know, obviously, it was, you know, obviously it's Alcoholics Anonymous,
Hmm.
and it was the most, it was the soberest New Year's Eve I've ever had, because there was no drink there,
Yeah, he
and
does that. Hmm.
it was one of the best nights, because he come on and obviously done his thing with Gary Brooker and Henry, I think it was Henry Spinetti, and Andy Fairweather Low, and then he said,
Hmm.
"I'm going to bring some special guests on tonight," and on walks Ringo Starr, Pete Townsend, yeah, and I think
Oh,
who else was it?
wow.
Joe Walsh. Joe Walsh. Yeah, it was just amazing.
All stars.
Yeah, so
That's a
amazing, amazing.
that's a New Year's Eve.
Yeah, yeah,
I
it
just
was.
want to say a quick hello to Elaine Abrams. How's it going? Hey, Zach Bayer and Vito. I think we said hi. What do you think about those vintage frets on the EC guitar? Personally, I don't love them. What are your thoughts?
Uh, do you know what? I don't mind them. I don't. You know, I, obviously every guitar that I have, they're all slightly different feeling.
Hmm.
And I just adapt to them. For me, I just adapt. I
Yeah,
play, you know, for a little while, get used to them.
right.
But yeah, they're fine. They're fine. You know, sometimes different frets and different, you know, heights of fret make you approach things differently. You know,
Yeah.
all my Strats I've got literally, they're all maple necks. But sometimes if I pick a rosewood Strat up, it
Hmm.
makes me play differently. It makes you approach things differently. I don't know if it's the same for you.
Yes, it does, and it would go the same for just a different guitar. If I were to pick up a Gibson, I'd play differently, and that's true for Eric as well. He'll play differently.
Yeah,
He'll put vibrato on differently.
yeah,
I read somewhere a while ago that Eric stopped adding vibrato on bends like he used to do in Cream, and I
yeah,
was like, you're kind of right. He like he stopped or just started doing it less,
yeah,
and it's interesting because I guess playing a certain guitar can influence the way that you play, and
yeah.
maybe the Strat did that for him. Who knows?
Possibly, yeah. I mean, there's one standout when you sound about vibrato on a bend. It was in a Fender. I don't know if it was a Fender program, and he done White Room. It was part of it was Body Horns. I can't remember the name of the program, but it was basically to celebrate, I think, the 40th or 50th anniversary of the Fender Stratocaster.
Hmm.
And Eric was on there, and they took a snippet of him playing a Montreux '92, and he played White Room, and the solo in that was just, where did that come from? Because it almost like starts off the beat,
Hmm.
and then oh, and he does a bit right at the end, and he's up here, and he's literally on the finish of the guitar, the finish riff, and he comes up obviously right up the dusty end, and does what you say, a bend with loads of vibrato, and it's just wow. You know, that is great. You know, sometimes you don't hear it often. He used to do it like a long while ago.
Yeah, he
Um,
did it a lot in the '90s. He still did it then. I think
yeah,
he's kind of gravitated away from it. But I guess that's just a personal choice. Maybe he'll bring it back. Who knows? If he's doing something like While My Guitar Gently Weeps, obviously he'll add a ton of vibrato on those bends to make it sound like it's weeping.
yeah,
But it definitely was more characteristic in his playing, in the '90s and before.
yeah. No, it's and there's certain things like double stopping that he uses sometimes. Um, Again,
We should explain what that is, just for viewers who aren't guitar players.
oh, sorry, yeah, go on, you go for it.
Okay. Double stopping is when you play two strings or two notes at the same time, right?
That's
Would
right.
that be
Yeah,
right?
that's kind of,
Double
yeah.
stop.
It's yeah, you almost uh, let's plug it in.
Plug it in. Plug it in.
So you're playing obviously not single notes. You're playing.
Right.
So it's kind of, it has a bit more of a meaty sound to
Yeah.
it.
I watched a video of Eric where he's talking about playing over Chuck Berry type songs, and he said you can't play single notes over that type of music. You need to
No.
be using double stops
Yeah.
because that's what the song requires. And I was like,
Yeah.
that's interesting.
Yeah.
That you use these certain techniques
Yeah.
for certain songs.
Yeah.
And he doesn't really talk about technique much besides that video of him with the wah-wah pedal. He's like, you just got to rock it. That video. Do you want me to break the guitar up?
Yeah.
That whole video.
Yeah.
He doesn't do too much instructional or tutorial videos.
No. I mean, he's never done like what Brian May used to do. I think Brian May used to do like star licks.
Yeah.
But
John Petrucci does. Yeah.
That's it. Yeah. But I've never seen like. There's an interesting one actually. I have seen him when he's talking about Disraeli gears. Have you seen that video?
Classic albums.
That's it, yeah. And he's I think he's got a jazz master or a 12-string jazz master or something, and he's talking about it sounds like atmospheric. But he's then he's almost like breaking the song down a little bit, which is quite interesting.
Right.
He's never done like a tutorial as such. That was quite interesting. He's talking that in that Chuck Berry thing. He's like, can't use. You have to sort of like use double notes. He's kind of like said, if you do it with single notes, it sounds wrong. But it's almost like he was like saying that, well, Chuck Berry almost kind of invented that way.
Right.
Yeah.
It's less full as well. When there's more notes played or when there's more strings played, it's just a fuller sound. It fills everything out better.
Yeah.
I'm surprised he doesn't. Does he do it in Lay Down Sally on the original recording or no?
I think.
Or is he single notes?
I think it was. I can't remember how it was on the record, but yeah, I think there was bits and pieces.
That would be a song that he would fit a Chuck Berry style into, or Chet Atkins, or whatever.
Yeah. So, what's for you? What's your sort of like top 3 sort of standout performances of maybe from like I don't know 1980 right the way through to now? That's a big time period. I know, but
1980 through now. You want 3 performances? Yeah, I can definitely think of 3. Oh, Godfrey Townsend's mentioning Albert Lee. Yeah, definitely Albert Lee style for that solo. Absolutely. Yeah. Whenever he plays with Albert Lee, it's over a song that has that kind of sound, like Tulsa Time or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so top 3 performances over the last 40 years. Okay, this is difficult. Anything from 24 Nights, which is my favorite live Eric Clapton album. If I can count that as one performance. If I had to say my favorite performance from 24 Nights, it's probably Have You Ever Loved a Woman?
Really?
Or Pretending, one of the 2 of them.
Yeah.
I love everything from that record, but those are the 2 that I go back to most.
Yeah.
If I'm watching. But let's see, 2 others. Well, I love the Cream reunion. I think that he did a great job at that show.
Yeah.
And he had a really good tone at that show for a couple of the songs. Obviously, he wasn't using his Gibsons and his Marshalls, and a lot of his fans were unhappy that he didn't go back to that. But he had been a Fender guy for already 30 years at that time.
Yeah.
30 plus years.
I suppose it makes him feel comfortable, isn't it, at the end of the day,
Yeah. Like a song like Badge from the reunion show was great, or We're Going Wrong from the reunion show is just unbelievable. and Jack Bruce's voice is outstanding, and Ginger Baker's drumming is perfect. He's using the mallets instead of drumsticks.
Yeah.
It's just an incredible performance, and there's so much great stuff from that Cream reunion show.
Yeah, yeah.
I can't think of too many DVDs that came out in the 2000s where I can say that I loved the playing. Obviously, the Crossroads show from 2010, where he does "I Shot the Sheriff," which we mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
That's amazing. That performance is amazing, and I was in the audience for it, and I was filming it because I know when he's about to start the solo, Steve Gadd or the drummer is going to hit the snare drum and he's going to do a bend, and I know what he's going to do just from watching him so much.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that he was going to give us a legendary solo right then and there. And after the performance was over, I turned to my dad and I said, "Wow, that was really good." And I'm very critical, and I imagine you're critical too if you watch Clapton. And we mentioned earlier, we know when he's having a good night, when he's in the zone.
Yeah.
And he was really in the zone that day.
Yeah, yeah.
He did a lot of stuff that did not make it to DVD because they wanted to include all the other artists from that day.
Yeah.
So they just put maybe 2 or 3 songs, the best things that he did.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Crossroads, I Shot the Sheriff, and whatever he did with Winwood. I think Voodoo Child. So, and I remember listening back to the YouTube video or the Crossroads DVD 2010, and I said, they didn't have that echo, or they didn't have that reverb on Eric's guitar when I was there. So they added it in
Post-production, yeah.
In post-production and mixing. And it was cool. It's cool because you don't hear those sounds on these Eric recordings. It's usually just his guitar sound and maybe some reverb.
Yeah.
Which is all you need.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like interesting what you was on your previous video about 24 Nights, about the post-production, about the sound. But there was a lot of, mics around the stage that some had like natural echo and natural reverb.
Right.
And obviously what you were saying about the Old Love solo.
That blew my mind.
Yeah.
So what Chris is talking about, I did an article where I interviewed the mix engineer of 24 Nights, and the mix engineer's name is Alex Haas, who's a producer and engineer. He also engineered From the Cradle, which is pretty cool. So I got to speak with Alex Haas, and there's an article called 24 Nights Interview with mix engineer Alex Haas, which is on my website, michaelalso.net. So
Gotcha.
if you haven't read that yet, which you have, so if you haven't read that, check it out. Let me know what you think. And I'm so grateful that Alex, spoke to me and gave us all these details that no one knew anything about except him.
Yeah.
So,
because up until that point, nothing had been really written about the album or the videos, or it was such a monumental thing over over taken from 2 years worth of concerts, and then praise it down, and always this was again pre-YouTube. I always kind of wonder, well, surely there must be some more, and obviously, of course, there was, but,
right.
Just seeing that, seeing other performances pop up, because it's like the Nebworth concert in 1990. I knew that, again, that was another one that I watched backwards, upside down, back to front, you name it. I watched it over and over again. I knew that there was more, but he done a couple of songs. Then I think he done Before You Accuse Me and Tearing Us Apart. That was on the video. Right. And then he introduces Dire Straits. Well, I knew that he'd done a lot more. He done Pretending. He done Old Love. Yeah. Apparently the PA was a bit shaky at that time. It's all on YouTube now.
It looks like it was a windy day. His hair is blowing like crazy.
Yeah.
He doesn't have a Steve Vai fan at the front of his stage to make him look cool.
He's long hair and
right, when he's got the best hair of his career.
Yeah, looking great.
The best look of his career.
Yeah, in my opinion, the best sound. Obviously with the Soldano SLO amps.
the Soldano SLO 100 and the Marshall cabinet. Did he? I think he had the 1960 B or A. A is angled, B is not angled.
I think from memory, I think because I've got this, I've got the I've got the original catalogs here.
The Bonhams auction.
Yeah, here.
Yeah,
And
that was in I think in New York or maybe.
I think it was. Yeah, I mean, I think the hang on, that's where are we? It's in here. And I
while you search for that, so if whoever's watching, so those don't look angled. They look like they must be 1960B.
Yeah, I think they are. They are, yeah.
Yeah, those Marshall cabinets.
Yeah.
I see a bunch of comments from people listing their favorite shows or favorite eras, or era Clapton, as I say. So yeah, so list your favorite concerts in the comments, and maybe we'll be able to respond to them. I see John Rowe says 1994 Fillmore. Oh, okay, so you were at the Nothing But the Blues tour that was filmed for Martin Scorsese, his documentary, Nothing But the Blues. Yeah. That's an amazing show. I've been looking for ticket stubs from those shows, but I imagine John has them. John, would you like to give me one?
I'm sure you can spare one, John.
Yannick is saying Old Love in Stockholm 2011.
Right. Oh, yeah. Was that when he played the Daphne Blues Strat?
I'm not sure. Oh, Isaac Estreich. 24 Nights, yeah. I agree with you. Did I give you 3 concerts? 3 favorites? I think I mentioned, 24 Nights.
Cream
Reunion, and I guess Crossroads 2010.
Yeah.
But I also want to throw in some extras because you just reminded me, because you mentioned Birmingham, the concert from 1986, where I loved his playing there and his voice, and I want to talk about his voice later.
Yeah.
So the Birmingham concert with Phil Collins was just incredible performances by him and his band.
Yeah.
White Room, Layla. It's one of the best Layla performances. Well, when we have our special guests on in a little bit, we'll fight over the best Layla performance to the death. And so the Birmingham performance, the 1999 Crossroads concert where he's with Sheryl Crow and Mary J. Blige and Bob Dylan at Madison Square Garden, where he does that performance of Layla that everyone knows and loves. Yeah. I loved his sound at that concert. He's using the lay sensor Strat, and his custom modified Fender 57 Twins, which just sounded amazing.
But yeah, it's got a real woody resonance to it. But again, obviously, when you put the mid boost on, it just takes it to another level.
His sound when he's soloing in the context of his band, it just sounds so much better than his recent tone to me. That late 90s tone after he moved from Soldanos back to Fender amps. Those custom Fender Twins sound so unbelievable. And he also used them at the 1996 Hyde Park shows where he played the 335 on Have You Ever Loved a Woman, and those performances sound so amazing.
Yeah. I mean, and I found some footage a little while ago in 1998, like the Pilgrim tour, when he was, I think it was in Pennsylvania, I think, or Philadelphia, I can't remember. It was in America, and that's on there. And the sound again, he was playing One Chance, and he was playing She's Gone, and oh my God, it's just amazing. And do you know what? You know, we talk about going to the red line, and he honestly, it's going to happen. He's getting old now. Your faculties will start to go. It's inevitable.
Yeah.
But I think in the 90s, I think that was for me his best playing. The From the Cradle tour, obviously Pilgrim, that sort of era. Obviously the Journeyman. The whole 90s really, and obviously the 2000s. God, there's some great performances there. But I think Fire and actual just great sounding guitar playing. I think that's the best, my favorite period for me.
I'm I'm in agreement with that. The 90s were the best time for me as well, or late 80s into
Oh yeah,
early to late 90s, I guess.
yeah,
The whole 90s, I could watch that all day.
yeah.
Between 24 nights and all those concerts that you mentioned.
And actually, another one that I heavily watched was basically Blackie's last outing. Was obviously the Behind the Sun tour. You know, when he's playing in Hartford, Connecticut.
Yeah.
I think the 1st of May in '85. That was, again, it's almost, I don't know. I always felt that watching Blackie there, it's almost like it was like Blackie knew that it was coming to an end for him or her,
Right.
depending on which way you want to see it. And it's almost like it's beaten up, and it had a hard time on the road, but it was almost like it was like saying a farewell. I don't know. It's a weird thing, but that's all. I always felt with that particular concert, it was almost like Blackie's. You know, I know he played it at Live Aid as well, and a few other times.
Yeah.
That was another great concert.
I got to ask about what equipment he was using for Live Aid and before then, because he was using this like delay pedal or echo pedal that was like kind of doubling his sound, and he was using it on a lot of solos, but I don't know too much about what he was using. Do you know anything about that?
I think, well, at that time he was using something Roland based. Yeah, he had a Roland synth guitar that was in. I say that was in one of his auctions actually, and like a rack mount kind of unit thing. But yeah, Behind the Sun that had quite a lot of that sound what you're mentioning on there.
Yeah, that kind of echoey, doubled, very short delay time sound.
Almost like gated, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Noise gate on it or something.
And I think at one of the 1986 concerts, there's another related concert from Montreux.
Yeah.
Where he's still using that echo pedal, and he's got the lace sensors. He's got the red Fender Strat, which must have been a prototype at that point.
That was
the red Eric Clapton signature Strat, and he still had that echo pedal, but he didn't have it at the Birmingham concert, or he didn't use it.
No, it was. I know he had obviously he had an effects unit because you can see it obviously when the camera pans out, but I don't know if that effect was used. But do you know what happened to that red Strat that he had?
No, I imagine you do.
Well, I was just going to say that one. I think that it was traded. He gave it to Ian Botham, the cricketer.
Okay.
In exchange for one of his bats. I think he gave Eric a bat, and he gave Ian the red Strat.
That's a nice trade.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty good myself. Yeah. But,
wonder what that guitar is worth.
Oh God, because that was a one-off. He only had one red one, where he had two pewters made, and the red one, and I think the green one was a little bit later. I think. But they're all in the catalogue, in like the Christie's catalogues.
Right. Yeah. I think I have to agree with you that pewter is my favorite color on the Clapton Strats. It just looks good with anything, and you could wear whatever color suit, shirt, whatever. You don't have to figure out your wardrobe based on your guitar. Like if I'm playing a blue guitar, I'm not going to wear a red shirt.
No. And because obviously I know of later times, Eric's had that. It's a similar color, but it's slightly darker. It's called Grego Silverstone. It's a Ferrari color, but it's still charcoal grey at the end of the day, isn't it?
Charcoal, right.
But it still looks classy. It's a classy color, and when the light hits it like that, it just looks great.
I played a couple of gigs with this guitar on stage, and the lights make this guitar look white. It doesn't even show as Daphne blue, which is what it is. This is a Fender Classic Series 50s Strat. It's probably my favorite guitar. It just plays so well. And I was turned on to it because I was playing a gig with Godfrey Townsend, who's watching, and we're going to get him in this chat in a little bit. And he said, here, try this guitar or use this guitar for this gig. And we were at someone's house, a guy named Stephen DiPolito, and I grabbed the guitar and I said, this feels great. And then I plugged it in and it sounded like a Strat.
Yeah.
But the feel of the neck is probably one of the most important things when you're buying a guitar.
Yeah.
It has to feel comfortable in your hands. You have to be able to play chords comfortably wherever you are on the neck.
Yeah, yeah.
And bending has to be somewhat easy if you're doing bluesy type things.
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
So I played this guitar at that house, at a house party, and then I just had to go to Sam Ash or Guitar Center and try it again to make sure that I wanted it and that I would buy it. And then I bought it off of reverb.com for about $700 in 2019. And it's just one of my favorite guitars. It plays like a dream. I think the neck is as good or better than a Clapton Strat. And I have a Clapton Strat.
Wow. I'd love to try it. I'd love to have a go at it.
Oh yeah. I mean, next time you can get to a store and try a Fender Classic Series 50 Strat, but now they're actually discontinued, so you can start crying.
Oh, no. But,
they're replaced by the Vintera series, which is similar to the Fender Classic Series 50 Strat.
Yeah.
They're just slightly different. I think they come in the same colors, but the neck is just slightly different. But if you're a player and you like the way a neck feels, you want it to be the same.
Has it got a pronounced V like the Clapton Strat, or is it
yes,
less pronounced?
It's just very. I think the Clapton V is more pronounced.
Yeah.
But it's just so comfortable, so easy to play, and it's become my favorite Fender that I own.
Wow.
Yeah. So I see you have two Fenders behind you. Can you just tell us what they are?
Yeah. Well, this is obviously you've got the grey one there. It's just a standard Strat. This is a 2014. This is a custom shop team built guitar. You can probably see it. It's Mercedes blue.
Beautiful.
And it's got quite a straight grain maple neck. I don't know if you can see that on the camera there at the back, but and the signature is at the back of the guitar. Obviously, custom shop logo there, but with the
original contour body on the top. That's what makes it custom shop to me, and that's what makes it so desirable.
And this is lovely. I've had this a few years now. Again, I wanted to up. I'll show you the other couple in a minute that I've got. But I just wanted kind of one of each sort of like range, if you like an artist series, then the team built, which is obviously like the sort of like entry level to custom shop, I think you could call that, and then you'd have the Masterbuilt. But again, obviously all the electrics are the same, but this still has the TBX. This has the TBX.
The treble bass expander. So that's good to know. And how much better does it play than a standard signature series?
You can tell by the wood is slightly better quality. The grain, so it's got a nice grain to it, and the tone of the wood, in terms of like it's like color. You can tell. I know it's difficult to describe, but there is a difference.
Is it worth the investment?
I think so. I believe it is, because I think that you'll always get your money back when you come to sell it, if you want to sell it or need to sell it.
Right.
And I just think like you say, when this one here, this is a black Artist Series, which I've had. Obviously, it's got the lace sensors on it. Now I've had this. This is a 1995 guitar, and I've had this I've got this in '96. And yeah, to buy this guitar now, I mean, I think I paid just under £1,000 for it. I think, but now to buy the same guitar is probably closer to £2,000, but £1,800, something like that.
Yep. Yeah. Here in the US, it would be $16.99, so $1,700.
Yeah. So
for the standard.
For the standard one, yeah. Well, obviously it won't have lace; it'll have the noiseless. But this one here, this is I suppose my pride. This is basically a gold leaf. This was Eric had a gold leaf guitar made in 1996, I think, to commemorate Fender's anniversary. It's either a 50th anniversary, I think it was, yeah. And he used this on the Legends tour. He used it on the Music for Montserrat concert, and he used it on the Japanese tour. I think Tokyo, and a few other places. But basically, it's a gold leaf sort of finish with gold hardware. Obviously, this one's again, it's got the
that's stunning. And Eric's didn't have the original contour body on the top.
No.
Or if it did, it was very faint, and you couldn't see it.
I think the I've got it in the book here. The actual Fender writing, obviously, is quite pronounced on this one. It was all in gold.
That is just stunning. Can you hold that to the camera again, just to show the flame to the viewers?
Yeah.
That's just stunning. Oh.
See at the back. There's this one. It didn't have Eric's signature at the back. It's just literally. It's got.
Is that Todd Krause?
Todd Krause, yeah.
So Todd Krause is the master builder over at Fender who builds Eric's guitars. Eric has used other master builders at Fender over the years, but Todd Krause is his main guy.
His go-to guy, yeah.
It's his go-to guy. So anyone who follows Eric knows that Todd Krause is probably, one of the best builders in the world.
Yeah.
And now, how would you compare this guitar to the standard series $1,000 guitar that you have?
Well, I think things like the neck, it's rolled for a start, so it's not. There's no sharp edges on it. It's all been, a lot of time has been taken to make sure that on the edges of the neck it's nice and smooth. I mean, the back of it. I mean, you can see the
neck alone. The neck alone, I would
it's just
die
beautiful.
For.
But this has got a bit more of a tighter sound, and you can when you probably hear it on the Legends tour when he's playing he's soloing it does sound different. It's got, because he's using that, and he's using his Mercedes blue one, and you can tell the difference in sound.
Yeah.
I don't know if it, because this is it's like gold leaf. It's wrapped, and then it's got like a lacquer over it.
Yeah.
It's it's got. You just gotta, I don't know, it's I mean, obviously I'm doing it at a fairly low volume, but when you crank it, it's got a different sound. It's lovely. Yeah.
I love the sound at the Montserrat concert when he does Same Old Blues, and especially Same Old Blues, because he does the Golden Slumbers medley from the Beatles with Paul McCartney and Sting and Phil Collins as well. But in that song, he's blended into the mix more. Yeah. On Same Old Blues, you hear the reverb, you hear the echo of the Albert Hall, and it's a more dynamic song. Yeah. And his playing is just fire.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Right at the end when he's like literally it's and he's up and he's holding that vibrato again, as you were talking about. That's when you can really hear that echo.
And he'll even do, I think he'll play both notes. He'll do that famous bend. He owns that bend, by the way. And if anyone does that bend, you obviously like Clapton. It's like, we can't do it. It's like, oh, you're a Clapton guy.
Yeah, like a tone and a half bend, isn't it? It's almost
exactly.
It's bended up to. Yeah.
Right. He owns that. The second you do that, Clapton. It's just, even the bend from 15 on your B string from D to E, he owns that too. He just owns all these bends.
He loves bending a string.
Yeah, and he's good at it. Yeah, him and David Gilmour can definitely bend some strings, and Gilmour will do like the 2-hole steps.
Yeah, yeah.
On things like Another Brick in the Wall.
What gauge string does he use? I know obviously Eric uses 10s. Does he use 9s or something?
Gilmour uses like maybe like 9 to 50 something. He's got this hybrid thing with I think GHS boomers.
Right.
And it's some hybrid gauge, and I'm sure whoever's watching can tell us the exact gauge. But yeah, I haven't tried those strings. I've been using Ernie Ball strings since I found out that Eric used those strings. Yeah, 10 to 46.
That's it. In the yellowy green packet?
Yep. I just bought 3 packs of those. Yeah.
No, that's what I use. Yeah, they're great strings. And it's funny, on certain guitars, it's easier to bend on here. They're all set up pretty much the same, these guitars. I like my action to be quite low, like as low as it will go without buzzing or choking.
Yes.
But I find it easier to bend on these guitars, like certainly this one and this one, than the Mercedes blue one, and than the black one. I don't know why. I find it easier.
Yeah.
I don't know. They're all set up pretty much identical.
Right. Yeah. Some guitars just play differently.
Yeah.
And you use them for different things.
Yeah.
I see Godfrey Townsend said Gilmour uses gauges 10, 12, 16. So that's already different.
Yeah.
16, 28, 38, and 48. So that's just referring to the different string thicknesses. And I would say that Eric Clapton uses 10 thousandths, 13, 17. I forget what the next one is, maybe 26, 36, 46.
That's it, yeah.
So Gilmour has a little bit different. Gilmour likes a heavier bass sound.
Yeah.
And then with the higher strings, 10, 12, 16, so that he can do bends easier on the B string and the G string.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's interesting to see it, numerically. So
never really sort of studied it really, but yeah, I suppose when you look at it like that, it's
it makes sense. Yeah.
It makes sense. Yeah. But
and what amp are you going through right now, or what 2 amps are you going through?
Well, this here, I mean,
sounds good.
Yeah, I mean, just when I practice at home, which is obviously where I am, I've just got this little Yamaha THR 10, I think they call it, and it's amazing. It's like 10 watts, and it's got loads of different sounds on it. But it's their high gain model. I think they've discontinued it. It's like a dark green color. But I actually wanted it to try and get some Soldano tones. Haven't managed to get a Soldano yet, but hopefully that will be one day.
Yeah, I think that's one day for all of us. Yeah.
Yeah. I know they just re-released them, and it's just
yes, the SLO 30.
And the SLO 30, yeah.
And
the 100 as well, but that'll probably be for the gigs I play. It'll probably be more accessible to get the best out of it rather than the 100.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, at the moment, I've just got this. This is just a Blues Junior, little Fender Blues Junior, and then I've got a Marshall 2x12 cabinet here. So you probably can't see it.
No.
A normal 2x12 cabinet. See, my plan is, I use this at smaller gigs. Then I can plug into this cabinet via the Blues Junior. Just unplug the internal speaker and then plug it in, so you've got a bit more projection.
Mm-hmm.
And then at some point, try and get an SLO, because that will sit nicely here.
You and me both.
Yeah.
When I was 13, so that was like a year after I got the Blackie Strat, my second thing was I needed a Marshall.
Yeah.
But I didn't do any research at that point. At that point, I didn't know much. I didn't know how to research. The internet was also just like in its beginning stages with gear articles and things like that.
Yeah.
And so I remember going to a guitar store and I said, I need a Marshall. And I was having my bar mitzvah at age 13, and that was my parents' present to me. So they got me this Marshall that I had no idea about, which was like a metal Marshall. Yeah. I don't even know what it was, but it was so piercing loud, and it wasn't the right model for getting the Clapton sound. And
No,
I couldn't take it above volume 1 without, killing someone.
The dog's in like 3 blocks away.
Right. So I would love to get a Marshall one day, and the Soldano, as you said, but
Yeah.
and I'm lucky to live in a private house that we're not annoying people as much as if I were in an apartment building. So that just wouldn't happen.
I recently had I had one of the Eric Clapton Tweed Twins, the Twinolux amp, and I sold it. I had it for about 8 years, and I sold it.
Oh wow!
Yeah, because I just thought, well, this was just before lockdown, and I, obviously realised, I went into a period like for my day job, but I didn't know what was happening, so I thought, I'm not going to be using this. It was a very hard decision, but I thought, well, I'll sell it. So I decided to sell it. But I had that amp as my main amp for a good, probably about 7 or 8 years, which obviously worked lovely with these guitars.
Does it sound just like Eric's, or?
It very, very similar. Yeah. I mean, obviously, the closest sound I can sort of kind of give it to you was, especially when using this, was the Legends thing that he done.
Oh wow. Okay, so that's the mid '90s sound that we love. So
yeah.
Okay, so it works.
it does work, and obviously with Eric's amp, you had like what they call power attenuation, which means that you have a little switch, so you can crank the amp, but instead of it blasting, you can tail the actual output back, so you're getting the tone of what it would be like at high volume, but at lesser volume.
Right, kind of what like a hot plate would do.
Yeah.
An attenuator, right.
Yeah, that's it. And that had a 3-stage attenuation. Obviously, you could have it just one speaker on its own, then you could have half power on 2 speakers, then full power. And that kind of worked well in different situations. I kind of there is a part of me that regrets selling it, but it is what it is.
Get the SLO 100.
That's in the back of my mind. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll just sell all my guitars, and then I'll just buy the SLO 100, and I won't have any guitars.
That's it. Yeah. Well,
I could just it's just a piece of art. It's also just it's a good looking amp, if that means anything, and gear should look good too. Yeah. So.
And you know what? As I say, I don't think these guitars. These they look great, but they'll always be worth something, and I just think they're some people. I know some people who just buy them to look at.
Yeah.
I know that's a little bit sacrilege, because I know that I can pick them up out the case and play them. So
yeah. I have to ask you, when you got that custom gold leaf Stratocaster that you're holding, did you have to do like a custom order through Fender? How did that work?
Actually, this one, I bought this, it was about a year, well, no, it wasn't even a year old. There was a guy that, another Clapton fanatic, that, who names escapes me now, but he advertised it on eBay. Again, this was kind of like, this is a 2005 guitar, and I think he had it, he advertised it in early 2006. He had this on order. I think he ordered it direct from the Fender Custom Shop via Todd. I think he was in communication with Todd Krause,
right?
And he got it shipped direct. But he then wanted, for some reason, one of the Crash guitars, so he sold this to finance that.
Right.
So I see this advertised, and this was in actual fact it was a wedding present from my wife.
Wow.
Who bought it, and
that's a good wife.
She's 1 in a million. Yeah, absolutely. But she it was I just thought, well, it's one of those things that it's going to be with me for a long while, and I just thought, well, I'm never going to get another opportunity. So to get something like this, it was as new. It was as new. He hardly.
It looks new as you're holding it right now.
Yeah,
you take good care.
I try and keep them. Again, they get played. I mean, I play in a band at the moment, which is like a function band, and have done for the last 7 or 8 years. we play weddings and corporate gigs.
What's your band's name?
It's called Republic. It's
Republic.
Republic. Yeah, it's a bit of a play on words. But we started out as a duo. The colleague of mine, Paul, and we started to play more and more sort of larger gigs. And people used to come up to us and say, "Oh, great guys, but we really want to play. We want a band rather than a duo." So we kind of bolted people together that we'd played with at jam nights and other bits and pieces. So
right.
We sort of grew this thing, as it were, and we play. Obviously not in the last year because of COVID, but we play in some quite nice places, and I kind of pick it, you know, subject to where I'm going to be playing. If there's a stage there, you know, I'll take one of these out and play it because they're made to be played. They're not, you know, they're a bit showy, but at the end of the day, they're guitars. They're bits of wood, and they need to be played.
Do people come up to you afterwards and say, "Oh my God, you have that guitar from that concert"?
No. I mean, I say, you know, the type of things I play, the type of gigs I play, you know, it could be a wedding, or a couple of people have a bit. They've noticed it, and they said, "Oh, what's that? Is that a so and so?" I said, "Yes," or you know, but people there just having a good time, and we're just the band. We're just playing. You know.
Right. I get it. Yeah.
But it's, you know, if I was to play in a I don't know, a bar or something like that, I'd probably take
a gold guitar to a bar.
Well, no, I wouldn't take this. I'd probably take something like, you know, the black one or the pewter one that, you know, one that, again, they're precious, but you know,
a little bit less.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. If that was lost or stolen for any reason, you would be a very sad man. Especially also because your wife bought it for you. So
exactly.
So there's that attachment to the guitars, and that's something that's interesting. And obviously, musicians have attachments to instruments. Eric has attachments to certain amps and guitars, definitely.
Yeah.
And he'll play them for years and years, and then decide to just go in a different direction. Or Fender will say, "Hey, we got a new color for you."
New color, yeah.
So,
like I say, I love his current color, that almond green color.
Yeah, I hope he sticks with it, or has a new color.
Yeah, it's just such a, again, a class. It's like a pewter, another like a shade of pewter. It's just a classy looking color.
Yeah, a James Bondy guitar, like you said, Aston Martin.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's an Aston Martin color. It's
Oh, okay.
They've actually chosen there, but yeah, it's called, the actual color, it's called almond green. That's his latest one that he's using. Which is what I see. The last gig I see him was this time last year, and he was playing at the there was a Music from Marsden, which is a cancer charity, and he was playing in the O2, and he played that's on YouTube. He played the Almond Green Strat then, and about a month before that he played the Ginger Baker tribute concert. But I think he was playing it almost looked a bit like a bit. It wasn't Mercedes blue, but I think it was almost like a metallic black. It was weird. It was one that I hadn't seen before. But
it wasn't the midnight blue one.
No, it wasn't. Well, it might have been. I don't know. It wasn't a real defined blue. He had like a charcoaly sort of dark black suit on, and it kind of just he almost chooses his guitar colours to suit what he wears. I don't know if that's done on purpose, possibly.
Yeah. So you were actually at the Ginger Baker tribute with Ron Wood and Nile Rodgers and Steve Winwood, and all those drummers, Sonny Emery and Steve Gadd and Kofi Baker.
Yeah, it was all there.
That's crazy. And that was like the last gig before lockdown.
Literally, yeah. Well, I say the last
hurrah.
last big gig, and obviously there was that the charity one, the Music from Marsden in the O2. I think that was the last one. I think that was in March, early March.
Wow.
8th of March or something like that. But
just about a year ago, yeah.
Literally about a year ago now, yeah.
Wow.
And it's
and Eric was singing all those Cream songs that he's never sung, because Jack was gone and now Ginger is gone. I mean, Ginger sings Blue Condition, and Prestrad and Warthog.
Yeah.
So Eric is singing some of these songs for the first time.
Ever.
Singing Tales of Brave Ulysses. Like that, to me, I watched it, I guess an hour after it happened. Someone posted it, or they were on Periscope. And thank God for Periscope, because that allows people across the world to see concerts that they can't attend.
Yeah.
So Periscope and YouTube. So I watched that and I was like, wow, he's doing Blue Condition?
Yeah.
or what else? I Feel Free.
Yeah.
I've never seen him do I Feel Free.
And I've never seen him he done Strange Brew as well, which was another. I mean, he didn't even do that at the reunion.
Right. And that was a hit for them.
Yeah, it was massive. I don't think. I mean, Strange Brew. Obviously, that there's that in '67 where they done it. I don't. They didn't play it live. I don't think it was. I don't know if it was. I think it was mimed.
Oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, but he's got the perm.
Yes. Yeah.
That video. He's playing SG.
Yeah. The Fool.
I don't think that was live. That performance.
I agree. Yeah. I think it was just playback.
Yeah. But
and today is March 10th, which is the anniversary of the Winterland concert, where Cream got the performance for Crossroads that Eric is so famous for, and the band is so famous for reinventing from Robert Johnson's acoustic original. Yeah,
that's amazing.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'd like to, at this point, bring in some special guests, which should be pretty special for our viewers. And I'd like to introduce one of them now, and I'm going to bring in the next one after him. But I'm going to just send this guest a link. So please hold. So this first guest that we're bringing in, his name is Godfrey Townsend, and he is the current lead guitarist for the Yardbirds. He joined the Yardbirds a year or two ago and got to tour with them with the original founding member Jim McCarty. And other than being the current lead guitarist of the Yardbirds, Godfrey also was Jack Bruce's touring guitarist for several years. So Jack Bruce was the lead singer of Cream, and so he worked with Jack for several years, and I got to see them perform in New York, and that was amazing. On top of that, Godfrey has also played with Bobby Whitlock of Derek and the Dominoes. And Godfrey also runs for 20 plus years his own show called Clapton is Godfrey, which is an annual show that started at BB King's in Times Square. And then he would just bring it to other venues, such as the Space at Westbury in Long Island, New York. And he enlists his band, the Godfrey Townsend Band, with members Steve Murphy, who's an incredible drummer, singer, producer, arranger, John Montagna, who's an incredible bassist, singer, guitarist, producer as well, Manny Faccarazzo, who's an incredible keyboardist, and he also sings fantastically as well. And sometimes the drummer Steve Murphy's daughter, Madeline Murphy, joins us. And we've got other people like Mark Newman on slide guitar and vocals, and Ben Stein. This is Chris from England. We got Godfrey Townsend in New York, and I'm also in New York. Godfrey and I live about 20 minutes away from each other in Queens. And I've been working with Godfrey for the past 5+ years, playing guitar and singing backup with him. And I met Godfrey at this BB King's gig that he was doing for Clapton is Godfrey. And I approached him and I said, "Oh my God, you have a Clapton Strat with lace sensors. I want one of those." And
he started crying right away, you know. So I had to give it to him because I felt bad.
Yeah, so I kept in touch with Godfrey over the years, and then he was playing some local gigs in Queens, New York. And he brings a lot of guitars with him to these gigs, like a 12-string or 6-string acoustic guitar, and maybe sometimes an electric guitar. And one time I had the cojones to walk up to him and say, hey, I would love to play rhythm guitar on one or two songs. And he said, okay, how about Wish You Were Here by Pink Floyd? And so I learned it, or I knew it, and I played it for him the next time. And then I just always showed up to his gigs, and he allowed me to play with him, or he called me up at some point and said, hey, come sit in. And I've become his friend, and we get to work together, and it's great.
So the two things necessary are the right time and the right place, and have cojones.
Have cojones.
That's number one.
Right, that should be number one, really. Yeah, because that gets a lot of stuff done for you.
So Godfrey, I mentioned that you toured with Jack Bruce. You're the current lead guitarist of the Yardbirds. You've played with Bobby Whitlock of Derek and the Dominoes. You've basically played with everyone that Eric's played with. Pretty much at this point. I'm
trying to recreate his life in my own, way. So I'm kind of doing that. I met Yvonne Elliman years ago in Hawaii and all kinds of stuff like that. So pretty much around all the people that have worked with Eric in one way or another, I'm getting to work with them in one aspect or another. So.
Did you get to play with Yvonne Elliman or no?
We never got to perform together. She came to a show we were doing in Hawaii, and Jack Bruce was on that show as well. And funny enough, that I was leaving the dressing room to go look for her because someone had told me she was out in the audience, and she was with a guy named Tom Moffat, who was a big concert promoter down in Hawaii. He brought Elvis down there to do all those movies and stuff like that. And so he was there with her. And I said, oh, wow. So Yvonne Elliman was in the audience. Oh, man, I have to go find her. And as soon as I opened the door, she was like knocking on the door. She was going to knock on the door. And she was like, oh, wow, here you are. And she was like complimenting me about my guitar playing and whatever. So we got to be pals, you know what I mean? And then I would call to talk with her. We were talking about doing, you mentioned my, Clapton is Godfrey show. And I was thinking about kicking it up a few notches and doing like casinos, and maybe she could be one of the featured artists in the show, you know what I mean? And we can add that as a marquee value for to get better gigs,
Oh.
And she was into it. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta hit her up again. Tag her.
It just never happened. You know what I mean? And I saw her recently at a one of those chiller conventions. It's like a convention for sci-fi people and 60s people and stuff like that. And she was at one of those, and I went and reconnected with her there, which was a lot of fun.
She does a version of Can't Find My Way Home with Eric. I forget what concert it's from.
It's the 71 from EC Was Here live album.
Her voice is just unbelievable.
She's singing the Steve Winwood melody, higher part, and then Clapton is singing this lower harmony to her. And that's the way I've been doing it ever since. I've done it with Jackie DeShannon. I've done it with several female vocalists. And even when I do it with my band, one of my singers is a real high tenor, and he sings the Steve Winwood part, and I sing that lower Clapton harmony, which just makes it a nice, almost like a Crosby Stills kind of a sound to it, Yeah.
Right. Yeah. You'll do that with Steve Murphy, or you'll do it with Dylan DeFeo, who can hit those notes.
Yeah.
I wish I could hit those notes, man.
Yeah. Steve Winwood, man, that was. I mean, Blind Faith was such an incredible sounding band, wasn't it? And he could still sing like that. He still posts stuff from.
Well, last year, obviously, at the Ginger Baker tribute.
Oh, right.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, amazing.
Yeah, Kofi. It's funny. Kofi told me that Kofi didn't make it there for the rehearsals. You know, they were rehearsing a couple of days prior to the concert, and Kofi only made it there like at the last minute to play, and so Steve Winwood didn't feel comfortable using him on a lot of the stuff that he was going to be singing.
Yeah.
And then when he heard him play during the show, and he went, "Oh wow, can we keep him on stage for all my part of the set?" And Kofi was pissed because he didn't know the songs. He would have learned them, you know what I mean, or whatever. So yeah.
So you got to play with Kofi in Sons of Cream.
Yeah, we formed a band. I mean, I got in touch with both of them, Jack Bruce's son and Ginger's son, and I just said, would you guys be able to play nice together and we can go out and do some touring? I can book some shows, you know, for us. And they were both like, yeah, we want to work, you know, we'll do it, you know. And we went out and did it. We went out and did 4 short little tours, and we did another tour in England and Wales. Did you see any of those, Chris? We were all over, up and down England.
I didn't get there. So
where do you live? Where do you live?
I live in a place called, it's a county called Essex, which is just outside London.
Oh yeah.
I'm about an hour outside London.
So I think maybe we play the 100 Club or something like that. There's a football club that's somewhere in that area that we did or whatever. And both Janet Bruce came, you know, Jack's ex-wife, and Liz Baker, Ginger's ex-wife, was there. And I think Charlotte was there as well. So it was all the exes, you know, were there. And it's so funny because we did a meet and greet afterwards, and so we were out in the lobby signing things and talking to fans, and all the moms were hanging out, you know, and so Kofi says to his mother, says to Liz Baker, he says to her, "So, Mom, how'd you like the show?" And she went, "Oh, I thought it was very nice. The drum solo was a bit dodgy." Because we do Toad, and he does like a 15-minute drum solo in the middle of Toad, you know? Yeah. He does a great job at it, too.
But, I mean, have you ever met Eric himself?
One time for about 60 seconds. And it's funny that a friend of mine was playing with Jack Bruce at a club called The Bottom Line in Manhattan in New York City. And they were doing 2 shows. And he said to me, "I'll put you on the guest list. Come on down. It'd be great. You know, which show would you prefer to come to?" And I said, "Oh, the later show is probably usually the better one, right? Everybody's a little warmed up and they really can, they got their bearings, and, you know, they could really lock in the second time around." Yeah. So I said, "Yeah, I think I'd prefer to come to the later show." So he went, "Okay." So as I'm walking into the late show, Clapton comes walking out the door from the early show, and we walk right into each other practically. You know, I'm opening the door, he's walking out right into me. Yeah. And it's one of those things, you know, you don't expect it. And then as it's happening, you're just going, surreal moment. And I just went, "Eric," and I put my hand, and he just kind of shook my hand, and he went, good evening, and kind of just walked to the curb and got in a taxi with his girl or whatever, you know, that he was with. And that was it. That was it, you know.
A similar thing happened to me. I was telling Michael earlier on, I met him in 2009. And it was, I don't know if you know, he plays cricket. He's quite a heavy cricket player.
Really?
And he's had it for years. It's like Clapton 11s. It's like a charity cricket match that he does at the place called the Bunbury's, near where he lives in Surrey. And another friend of mine, who's a very, very massive fan, said, "Look, if you want to meet him, if you want a chance to meet him, you must come to this concert. You must come to this this cricket match, because you might get an opportunity. So okay.
Wow.
So I thought, well, what could I take with me to sort of maybe get him to sign? So I thought, well, I'll take. I've got this gold guitar, and I just thought, well, maybe, just maybe,
wow.
You know, he could sign that, or he could sign something with it, you know. Anyway, so we went to, you know, where I live. We went to Surrey, so it was probably about an hour and a half away, and we turned up there, and then obviously, you know, he comes out and starts playing cricket, and then obviously you get half time at you know, at sort of like an interval, and then he come over, and he sort of sat down. And lots of people sort of like, you know, crowded around him, and everyone had to sort of form an orderly queue. And so I thought, well, I'm not going to walk around all day with a guitar case in my hand, because you know, it's just crazy.
Right. Sure.
So with obviously, you know, with a custom shop guitar, you get a certificate. Well, this is the certificate that I got, and I just thought, well, I'll maybe get him to sign this, if he'll sign this for me. So I walked up, you know, obviously it was my turn, and he said, I shook his hand and say, I think I asked him to say, don't fret. It was something like, don't fret.
Right.
Yeah. And he said, I'll just write Eric. I thought of all the guitars, of all the albums, concerts, of everything, the money I spent, the least you can do is write that for me. And he said, no, I'll just write Eric. And that's what it was. That was you can just see the
that's it for sure. Yeah,
that's it. And that was it. Like same with you, 60, about a couple of minutes, and that was it. He signed. This was the program of the day.
Yeah.
And there was there was the tickets.
Yeah.
There was the tickets at the time, but like the car park.
Wow.
Thing, and he signed that as well, but.
Amazing
signature, and that was the day I met him.
You know,
of July 2009.
You know, the thing is, it's so dependent on what the person's mood is at that moment.
Yeah.
Because I just really think it's unfair when people meet someone famous and they meet them for a minute or 2 minutes or not even, and then they go, oh yeah, I met him. He was a real creep, or he was a real this or that, you know? And that's kind of unfair, because you don't know what that person was just going through, or what he was going through at the time, or maybe he just found out a relative passed away. You don't know, you know what I mean? It's like, so.
He might have had a crap breakfast that morning.
Exactly. I used to goof around with John when I toured with John Entwistle from the Who. He was such a fan kind of a guy that we would have to pull him away. Otherwise, you know, we'd go, John, we're going to miss the flight. You know, we're going to miss, you know, we're late for the gig as it is, or whatever. And we'd have to pull him away from fans, you know. And he'd just sign everything.
He likes the appreciation, I guess.
He might say, as a joke, if someone had a bass or whatever, he'd say, oh, would you like me to make it out to eBay, you know, or whatever. Or whatever, because he just knew this thing's getting put right up for sale as soon as the guy gets it home. And, you know, the more people sign things, it's a popular known thing among celebrities and whatever the industry, that the more you sign things, the less your autograph is worth.
Yeah.
So by limited edition things are more, right?
So McCartney will go, oh no, you know, someone will approach him with a Hofner bass, and he'll just go, no, you know, whatever, and just not do it anymore, or whatever. And then some other people are just totally free. Entwistle would draw, you know, spiders and do all kinds of stuff. He would just get into a whole thing with a lot of the fans, which was great, you know. Hey, here's Bobby Popper is on there looking around, huh? Going, hey now.
Yeah.
Hey Zach, hey Bobby Popper. Bobby Popper is
we got your guitar here, your Daphne. Can you see it in the light?
Yes.
It's the Daphne that I built, and it's really just a Clapton neck.
Yeah.
And it's actually a Blackie neck. It actually says Blackie on it. That Mike, I know Mike hates that it says all that, but it's a Blackie neck that I bought. Yeah. And I have a black one with the lace sensors. That's a Clapton Strat. But then I bought this neck on eBay for maybe $350 or whatever. And I had a buddy refret it for me with the medium jumbos, which I prefer. And then Bobby Popper made these pickups. He makes these really great pickups. And they're kind of like a 50s, 60s vintage Strat pickup. And they're some of the best sounding Strat pickups that we've heard, right, Mike?
Yeah, Godfrey's got 65 plus guitars, and I've played all of his Strats, and that's the best Strat pickups that he has in his house.
Yeah, you know how like the bridge pickup can get really nasty sounding, really brittle and harsh? That
like
one,
on a normal Fender Strat pickup.
that one doesn't do it. It sounds smooth and nice, right? Doesn't it? You know.
What's Bobby's website? Is it just Bobby Popper Music?
It's Tonemaster Pickups, I think is the name of his company, is Tonemaster. Yeah.
Let me see. And Bobby, you can put it also in the comments so we can say it out loud.
Yeah. So also,
because
we
want,
I mean, I met Ginger when I was touring with Entwistle. We were touring the United States, and Ginger was living in Denver, Colorado at that time. And John did a lot of art stuff. He did a lot of caricatures and stuff like that. He did the cover of the Who by Numbers album and other things like that. And so whenever we had days off on a tour, he would do an art gallery showing of his stuff. And Ginger came to one of them when we were out in Denver, Colorado, and it was right at the time that the Bruce Baker Moore album came out.
Yeah, BBM.
And I was so into it. I was digging it. And I went, wow, there's Ginger, standing at the bar with a long duster coat on. And I went over and just said, hey, man, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. Great album. And he kind of blew me off a little bit, And then later on in the night, I was reintroduced to him with John. John,
wow.
We got to hang out up in some room somewhere and just party a bit or whatever. And it was a whole different vibe. He was like, oh, wow, man, hey, great to meet you, whatever. And it was a different guy. So, and then, of course, Jack I worked with. So all three of them, I've met in one aspect or another, And then, as Mike mentioned, getting to play with Bobby Whitlock on stage at BB King's. I mean, he was touring with his wife, Coco, and they were doing this, like, just the both of them. But every city that they went to, they would pick up a local guitarist to play with them.
Yeah.
And I played BB King's a lot, so they knew I was a Clapton guy, and they said, hey, do you want to open up with your band for Bobby Whitlock? And I said, great. And when Bobby found out about it, he contacted me and said, would you play with us?
Yeah.
And so I got to play with them, and I had a half-stack Marshall. He had said, just bring a small amp and put it between us and sit between us. And so during the show, he said, I thought I told you to bring a small amp. And I went, that is my small amp. Or whatever. But, it was amazing to get to do that with him, and we still keep in touch. I was supposed to be doing some recording on his new album and whatever. And but that moment in time of sitting with Bobby Whitlock on stage and playing a song like Why Does Love Got to Be So Sad, and getting his reaction to it, like he's turning around and going, whoa, yeah, go. He's like, I'm going, what are you saying? Keep going. Come on, go around the more. And the audience got into it as well. So it was like a highlight of my career, to be there doing that. Because I never really get to play that song because I can't really sing it and play it. It's hard for me to sing and play it. So he was covering the vocals, and all I had to do was play the nuances in between stuff and the little solos in between the verses. You know.
I was in the audience for that, and I remember that moment when he just kind of turned around and he was like, do another solo, do another round. And the audience just was loving it, and it's emotional because you know we were there for Godfrey, and we were there to see Bobby as well, so we know how much of a fan Godfrey is of Bobby and Derek on the Dominoes, and Clapton, and then to just get, you're seeing this legend, Bobby Whitlock, just like give Godfrey the seal of approval, and it's just like a dream come true for him, and we're watching that happen, and I'm just like getting emotional like thinking about it right now.
And you know, Chris, the thing is, you don't, if you're playing with the guy, like if I had to go on stage with Clapton, that'd be a different story, because I would lay back and just go ahead, you're Eric Clapton, I'm just some guy, and I'm just going to play next to you whatever you need. Right? Yeah. But when you're playing with Jack Bruce, or you're playing with Bobby Whitlock or whatever, you get to be Eric Clapton. You get to do what you do. Right. And I remember when I first started playing with Jack Bruce, the tour manager, after the first night that we played, and we got like a standing ovation after we did like White Room and Sunshine of Your Love and a few other tunes, whatever. When I was walking off the stage after the show, the tour manager put his arm around me and he went, "Don't you know better than to show up the headliner?" You know? And he was laughing. And I just said, you know what? When I'm on stage with Jack and it's time to go, you just give it everything, don't you? You don't go, I'm just going to chill out. You know, you do your best in hopes of the fact that you're going to shine the shoes of the guy who you're trying to play like, you know.
You're all fired up, aren't you? You know, you're in that moment, and
so even when I played with Entwistle, I was doing my best Pete Townsend and Roger Daltrey to his John Entwistle. When I'm playing with Jack Bruce, I was doing my best Clapton to his Jack Bruce. If you're on stage with Eric Clapton, you're gonna go, I'm not gonna try to clone, you know, mimic you. That'll be lame to do, you know. So I'll just hang back and play rhythm and go ahead, you know. Like I'm gonna enjoy this, you know, or whatever, you know. So it's nice to not to be in a position where you're not stepping on anyone's toes. You're free to do what you do, you know.
I must say, just looking at that guitar, that it's funny. You don't, you know, obviously of all of Clapton's guitars. You know, the Strats, the Gibsons, you know, the over the years, you've got a red telly there.
Yeah.
And that was Eric's first main guitar.
Right.
And very little has been spoken about that guitar.
Do you know the history?
Tell me about that guitar.
Yeah, the history is really Giorgio Gamelski was the manager of the Yardbirds. You know, he managed the Yardbirds, and that guitar actually was like, he bought that guitar. That was his property. That was community property of the band. So whoever was playing guitar in the band, if they didn't have a guitar, they would use that guitar. Yeah. So, and there are pictures of Eric using it a little later. I think he took it with him when he went on with the Blues Breakers. There are some live photos of him with the Blues Breakers, playing a telly that looks a lot like that. Yeah. But also Jeff Beck also mentions playing it when he was in the Yardbirds, and he didn't like it very much or whatever. Right. But then he played another telly, didn't he? He played the white telly with the rosewood neck that was a buddy of his from a previous band, John Owen, I think the guy's name was. And he bought this telly, and he kind of like Beck wound up using it most of the time. You know, Beck had some big Gretsch thing or something, and John Owen had this white telly, and then he would let Jeff play it because Jeff liked it better or whatever in the band, and that's what Jeff used in the Yardbirds, and then gave it to Jimmy Page later on as a gift for getting him the gig with the Yardbirds. And then that became Jimmy Page's Dragon Telecaster that he used on the first Zeppelin albums and stuff, you know. So the red Telly, it was a Fiesta red Telly, 65 or whatever it was, rosewood neck, that Giorgio Gomelski, who was the manager of the Yardbirds, owned that guitar, and pretty much it was used by whoever was in the band who needed to have a guitar for a gig or whatever.
And I wonder where it is now.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
There's so much sort of like press about the the SG, the Fall, and the stolen Les Paul, the Beano,
Right. The Beano Les Paul, which supposedly Bonamassa knows where it is, but he's not telling.
Yeah. But and obviously, he the Firebirds and the reverse Firebirds and the 335, but nothing. There's been, it's almost like the 24 Nights thing we were talking about earlier, Mike, about the people haven't written much about it. What happened to the Red Telecaster? It's almost
what about the Blind Faith Telecaster, which was brownie neck?
Yeah.
I mean, there are earlier pictures. Trying to get it. Because I built sort of a replica of it, So it's a 3-tone sunburst with binding on back and front.
Yeah.
And with a relict Strat neck. Because he
Can you
put
show the
brownie
back of
neck
the
on
neck?
this.
Can you show the back of the neck to the camera? Can you bring that closer to the camera? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, we could see that.
It's relict, and even the fretboard is kind of relict. You can see there's finger things in it or whatever. You see this guitar early on. Cream went to Finland or something to shoot some movie. They were playing on the back of a flatbed truck, mimicking, World of Pain or some song like that. And Eric is playing it, but it's got a rosewood
neck,
neck with a big headstock, and a few people have said, oh, I think that's a Jazzmaster neck on there, but so weird that he had this guitar from Cream, and then all of a sudden it turns up again in Blind Faith with Brownie's neck on it. So we know where the neck went. The neck went back on Brownie, obviously. Right. But where did this go?
Where's the body gone? Yeah.
And somebody said, and I'm not sure if it was Bonamassa or someone else told me, that they believe Mick Ralphs has it from Bad Company. Yeah.
Wow.
So these are the urban legends and myths that we sit and we do guitar sleuthing is what we call it. Try to find out the mystery of where the guitar wound up.
Yeah.
And it keeps us out of trouble, in a sense.
It does.
It
does, yeah.
So
I've always been, I don't know why, but I've always been intrigued about that red telly. It's always been. Where's it gone? What happened to it?
Yeah, and sometimes you see pictures of the Yardbirds and Chris Drea, the other guitarist, is playing it, and Eric is playing a Jazzmaster, a Sunburst Jazzmaster, which Chris usually played. So for some reason they swapped them out a couple of times, So it's interesting to know, and of course playing with Jim McCarty is the original drummer from the Yardbirds. He was there through all three of our heroes, and even before and after, obviously, Topham was the original guy, and then there was a bunch of other guys that came afterwards, and then me. But he doesn't remember a lot of the real details of the guitars, from behind the drums, whatever. He didn't pay much attention probably in those days to this is going to be legendary someday, No one did. Even when you see
it was just a tool, isn't it? It's a tool that
even when you see early footage of the Beatles and people are interviewing them, they're kind of just going, I'm hoping this will last for a little while. I can maybe save up some money and open up a hair salon or something, Ringo says, I think, or something like that. They had no idea what was going to be, that anyone that was involved in them in any aspect has made a lifelong career out of that fact,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have a cream story I want to mention. You mentioned Jack Bruce a little bit before. But first I want to ask you, what years did you work with Jack Bruce? Because I saw you with Jack on the Hippie Fest tour in 2010.
8. Yeah, it might have been
2008?
10. But the first time I worked with Jack was on a tour called A Walk Down Abbey Road. And that was like it was like a package tour where they had 4 or 5 headliners who played a few of their own hit songs and then played covers of Beatles songs. And it was like a Beatle tribute show. And so John Entwistle was on it the year before. He brought me onto the tour. And then he was going out with The Who the following year. So we needed to get a different guy on bass. And we brought Jack Bruce in. So it was like Todd Rundgren and Alan Parsons, Mark Farner from Grand Funk Railroad, Jack Bruce on bass, and Christopher Krause also, which was kind of the odd man out, but he's actually a really great player, and I'll tell you.
Did you say Ann Wilson? Did I miss that?
That was the first year. The first year was Todd Rundgren, Alan Parsons, John Entwistle, and Ann Wilson from Heart.
Wow.
And David Pack from Ambrosia came on to sing Alan Parsons' music and stuff, whatever. So Jack I met in 2002, the first time. And at the end of that summer tour, he asked me to do some dates with him. He was playing with Vernon Reid and a couple of guys like that. And he said, "Oh, Vernon's being a pain in the ass. You want to do these gigs with me at BB King's in the fall?" And I said, "Yeah, sure." And at the same time, he was recording an album in New York. And he said, "Would you want to play on some of the stuff?" And I wound up playing on the album and doing the 2 shows with him, later that year. So we had a pretty good rapport,
What was the album that you did with Jack?
So it was, I know Mike is trying to egg out the story, but there was a track that we played on where we played acoustic guitar. Like I played acoustic guitar on this one ballad, really, really great Jack Bruce, sad kind of a ballad. And the engineer was a guy named Kip Hanrahan. And at one point, while the tape was rolling or whatever, he was saying to Jack, "How's your mix in your headphones?" And Jack said, "I need more Jack than God," pointing to me. And that was in the take-up reel. Every time they played the track again, they would hear that in the beginning of the song before they'd get to listen to the song. "I need more Jack than God, more Jack than God." So that became the name of the album.
Wow.
That's cool.
And he was referring to me. Now, the funny part about it is that he was interviewed for the album when the album came out on Sanctuary Records. He was interviewed, and the interviewer was trying to be kind of clever and sneaky. And he said, "So is your title of your album any kind of a dig at Eric?"
Oh, because Clapton is God?
And Jack got a little huffy with the guy, but it was cool. It was fun. He went, "No, man, I don't go to sleep at night dreaming about Eric Clapton," is what he said to the guy. And then he explained it was a friend of mine, Godfrey Townsend, who played on the album. And in the mix, I was being asked what I needed. And I said, "I needed more Jack than God." And I used to call him Godish for short, whatever. And so that's how legends are made, right? Yeah, pretty funny.
I think Eric Clapton dreams about Eric Clapton.
Yeah, well, who else would you dream about? I dream about myself every night. I mean, I'm in most of my dreams. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah.
So I saw you about, I guess, 2010 with Jack on this Hippie Fest tour where there's a bunch of just, I guess, psychedelic rock type and just 60s artists.
More 70s artists, yeah. But
oh,
Jack,
70s? Okay.
It was like end of 60s, 70s, like Rare Earth and bands like that, and Three Dog Night.
and Godfrey was the musical director for that tour, and he does related tours called the Happy Together Tour, which just tours nationally and internationally.
No, 60s stuff, and we do like maybe 50 or 60 dates across the U.S. every summer for the last 10 years. We've been doing that, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. So I saw you on that tour, and I remember, because I knew you at that point from going to your Clapton's Godfrey gigs, I asked you if I could get an autograph of Jack, and I think what you did, you like set it up to meet afterwards, after the show. You said, come around the back after the show, and I had a picture of Cream. And so Jack signed it for me, and then I asked Godfrey to sign it, and he's like, I'm not Eric Clapton. And now I have a photograph of Cream signed by Jack Bruce
And Godfrey Townsend. And where was this? Where was this?
This was at Westbury, Long Island.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Yeah, Westbury. So yeah, that was pretty cool. And I got to meet Jack Bruce and say a couple of words to him. And I remember him asking me, what's my name? And I said, like a James Bond, I was like, Clapton. Michael Clapton.
Michael Clapton.
And he said, "Oh no, not again."
We played him. Have you ever seen the video, the YouTube videos, the Shreds? They're called Shreds videos, and
yeah,
I think I have. Yeah,
it's basically this very clever way of playing really sour guitar playing or notes or whatever, and it looks exactly like the video the guy is playing it. Yeah. It looks exactly like that's what he's playing, you know. But they're real sour notes, very pitchy or just plunky or whatever. And there's one with Clapton. And
playing Old Love.
Yeah,
and
we played it for Jack on the tour bus on a laptop, and he was rolling on the floor. And he was like, "Oh man, that's the greatest thing I've ever seen in my life, man," you know, and he would not stop laughing about it or whatever. So that's kind of funny experience that we had with Jack at the time, you know.
Yeah,
I love that video, especially when the saxophone comes in. That kills me.
David Sanborn.
And
Steve Gadd is on drums and the whole deal, you know. So I posted before. I just got this book in the mail today. As you guys were doing your show.
Oh, great.
The bell rang, and John Rowe actually, yeah, there you go. John Rowe.
Everyone hold up your books.
Everyone hold up your book. John Rowe actually posted, like in the middle of the night, the other night, that this was on eBay, and it was like the last one, and it was for a good price.
Yeah.
And it was like $30. You guys are talking about the concert you've been to. On the inside cover of the Clapton book, that's July 13th, 1974, Madison Square Garden. That's the show I was at.
Wow.
Only one show?
Yeah. He did another one at Nassau Coliseum out in Long Island, but that was the show that I was at. And believe it or not, Todd Rundgren came out for the encore, and I was kind of already snuck down to where I could see everything that was going on the side of the stage and backstage and whatever, like a little bit above the orchestra, but I could see down onto the stage from the side, and I could see who's coming out, who's doing what. And there's Todd. I could see him. I could see Dickie Betts from the Allman Brothers and Greg Allman were there.
Wow.
And for an encore, they did Little Queenie. And Todd came out and played Blackie.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Todd was playing Blackie, and Dickie Betts was kind of standing there with a Sunburst Paul, and the road crew or whoever was scuttling around trying to find, I don't know, an amp or a cable or something. And he kind of just stood there for the whole song, Dickie Betts. And then they finished the song, and they finally got him plugged in. And they were like, "Oh, thank you, good night." they all just left, you know, or whatever. But yeah,
wow,
that was at that show in 1974, you know.
Wow.
Wow. I can't believe you only saw him once.
Once. And then that one
And-
time
and you're-
outside the bottom line. Outside the bottom
That's
line. for a
unbelievable.
minute. Yeah, just once.
I would think
Yeah.
that you would want to see him or get tickets. You had an opportunity to see Cream reunion in
yeah,
05.
Yeah, my drummer called me and said, "Hey, I've got tickets for Madison Square Garden tonight, Cream." And I was like, "Oh, it's raining," I had seen the live video. The DVD was already out from Royal Albert Hall, and it didn't blow
Right.
me away because I'm just one of those guys, and it might be annoying, but to me, I'm just one of those guys that if you were doing Cream, why didn't you use Gibsons and Marshalls?
Supposedly, Lee Dickson put them up in rehearsals, and Eric just said, "What is this? What is this crap?" or whatever. And so
Because
he's like, "Get me my twins."
Because
Get
he's
get me
thinking
my-
like Eric Clapton, and we're thinking like fans,
Right.
the
right.
same way as fans.
He's been using Strats for 35 years.
Right.
I suppose he just wanted to make it as easy for himself as possible, I guess.
Right. It's true, but I mean, look at the Live at Hyde Park DVD. What made me buy that DVD was him using the 335.
Yeah.
And I just went,
96.
oh my God, I need to have that. Whatever. And that's that. You know what I mean? And all right, the tone was there, but it just wasn't the same. I wouldn't play a song that doesn't really get played on a Strat. I even said it to Mike the other day when he was here. He picked up a Strat and he started playing a Zeppelin song, and I went, why would you play a Zeppelin song on a Strat? Unless you were playing the one that Page played on the Lake Placid Blue Strat. It's all about a vibe for me. I have to look down and see the right instrument in my hand.
Yeah.
And then it makes you play, like you were saying before, when you play a rosewood neck, you just play it differently than you play a maple neck,
Yeah.
So for me, the instrument just makes you play it differently,
Yeah. And it makes you approach things differently. And if I was to pick up an SG, it's almost like the neck is like it's
Right.
moved. It's weird
because you have total access to it at the body.
Yeah.
I used to play the solo to Crossroads, on an SG, and then many years later, I was trying to play it on a Les Paul, and I just thought, have I really gotten that old that I can't reach these notes anymore? But it was like, no, dude, you don't have the same access to this part of the fretboard, and supposedly that Fool guitar was what that, like Mike was talking about, the today's anniversary of that
performance,
impeccable version of Crossroads, that was not unedited.
Yeah.
Unedited. I thought at one point I heard an edit, like Baker's drum fill sounded like it was misplaced or whatever, but no edit. It's basically he just played that solo off the top of his head live.
Yeah. There's a bootleg on YouTube, and I listened to it, and it's just someone in the audience, and the sound quality is terrible, and the pitch is even lower. So they may have just pitch corrected everything.
It could have been easily just a tape.
Yeah, just like a
It could have been a battery operated tape player or something, and or whatever that, the batteries were running out on it after they played it back and made a copy.
Right. So I hear this performance, and there's no edits in it, and it's exactly the same guitar notes that we're used to, and that's what the performance is most famous for, that guitar performance.
But how old were they? How old was Eric in 1968?
Like he was like 20, he was like
23?
In 68, yeah, he was 23.
Born in 1945, around there. Is that when they were,
Yeah.
I mean,
Ginger
Jack
was
and
born-
Ginger was a little older, of course. Ginger was older.
Ginger was born in 1800.
But so just imagine that you're 23 years old, and you're pretty much hopped up on a few different kinds of drugs, at the time as well, and
Yeah.
you're hot to go, and you're here to take over America. I mean, they were here to just show America we're from England and listen to what we can do. You know, like all the bands that came from Britain, that's why they call it the British invasion, I guess. They were here to kind of just go, we're here to just show you this is us, you know. So they were really raring to go, something to prove, you know, and young and just so into it and hopped up on whatever, the speed, coke, whatever it was, you know, ups, whatever, pills, and just he comes up with that at 23. And
2 completely different solos.
And where's
completely
the
different.
where's the finest where's the finer moment in his career that can top that?
24 Nights.
Oh yeah, I mean yes, amazing. Even just the solo in Old Love, the first note in Old Love, that holds out during the whole Steve Ferroni, you know, lick. He's holding that one note out, and like that was an important note that you made before about how he was stretching notes, bending notes with no vibrato.
Right. Yeah.
I never realized that until you guys just said it tonight. That, wow, that's true. That era, that Journeyman era, all those solos, there's none of that. I don't think there's any.
He bends up and does vibrato on Old Love on the high notes, on some of the high notes. And he's still applying that vibrato.
It's that TBX thing, or the tone, you know, boost is like, just like he's letting it just sing, you know, just let it, he's holding it. And I started doing that, not that I wasn't using vibrato, but when I first got my Paul Reed Smith with the tremolo arm, I hadn't really had a Strat for many years. Yeah, it's right here. I hadn't had a Strat in many years.
Don't pull down your whole computer now like that guy who fell over with his guitar. Did you guys see that video?
I saw that. He's leaning back. I saw that.
Oh, crimey! And then the dog comes in barking.
Wow, we got to post that later on. So
grab me guitar.
I would bend the note. And not that I wouldn't put vibrato on it, but I would bend it and then use the tremolo arm to put the vibrato on it, which was kind of like a Jeff Beck thing at that time. Yeah. Beck was playing like that, a lot of just like, you know, doing that kind of stuff. And so I lost my vibrato almost from just playing like that a lot, having that guitar with the tremolo arm. And
in the 60s, or like, you know, in Cream, I think he used lighter gauge strings than he did like,
eights. I have eights. Yeah,
I didn't know that.
I have I still have I bought them at Manny's in New York City on 48th Street. Sound City strings. Yeah. Designed by Eric Clapton, and there's a picture of Eric. And there were eights. There were eights. The E string was an 8.
Bent off the fretboard.
Right?
The entire fretboard.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
10-step bend.
Yeah.
I would like to introduce our last guest for this evening, who's an awesome friend of ours and a gearhead and incredible guitar player. His name is Ben Stein, and he's actually played with Godfrey.
Oh my God, Ben is here?
Several times. Yeah, Ben is here.
It's like a reunion.
It's like a reunion. And everyone should know this guy as well. So let me just send him the link right now. I've been texting back and forth between Ben and Godfrey just because I can't really message on the computer without looking like this.
Ben is basically like if Eric Johnson and Joe Bonamassa had a love child who played guitar, it would be Ben Stein.
He's unbelievable.
He's unbelievable.
He's an inspiration to all of us, and he understands everything about guitar and knows the specs of amps and guitars. And
amps and guitars.
Who was
way
working
before he was even born, right?
who was working at Gibson from 1986 to 1988, why Fenders from 1991 to 1994, or whatever. You get the point. This guy knows his stuff.
I went down to Gibson's showroom in New York City when I was doing a Kofi Baker's Cream experience. I went with my bass player, Greg Smith, who plays with a lot of famous people as well. And we were trying to coerce Gibson out of a Firebird and an EB3 bass, you know. hey, we're doing this Cream thing with Kofi Baker. And Ben was working there as an intern. And so at one point we took a break and everybody was just walking around picking up guitars, and he was the guy who would help you. Hey, what do you want to plug into? You want to plug into this? How about this one? And he would plug everything in for you and make sure it's all working. And as he's doing that, he's playing these unbelievable guitar stuff. And I went, whoa, stop that. What are you doing? I'm not gonna wanna touch it after you finish if you don't stop doing that, you know, whatever. And he was just this amazing guitar player. And at that time he was probably 22 or 20.
Oh, he was probably like
21
at that point.
Yeah, I mean, he was only like 21 years old or something, because he's only about 25 now, isn't it? You know, right?
Yeah. I saw Ben. I met Ben at one of your Clapton's Godfrey gigs, and I think he's trying to join the room now. I sent him the link.
Okay.
So yeah, we were at a Clapton's Godfrey gig at BB King's in Times Square. Let's see what he's saying. It doesn't seem to let me. Hold on a second. I'm just trying to get Ben in this chat. Hold on.
I think when he comes in, I'm going to go, and it's not anything personal, but my dinner is getting cold, and, you know, once you start talking about guitars, we could be here until Sunday, couldn't we? You know?
If you could stay for like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
So
no,
we can get like a little
I don't
back
want
and
to
forth.
feel like I'm
gonna go.
avoiding him. Hey, Ben, bye. Yeah. So nearby London, Essex.
That's right.
That's where you live. Yeah.
Yeah. It's about an hour from London. Yeah. So.
Yeah, we were hanging out with a guy when Entwistle lived in Gloucestershire.
Yeah.
You know, it was like the Cotswolds there in Stowe on the Wold in Gloucestershire, and he had this huge castle. It was called Corwood Estate, 50 rooms, and it was, you know, on this whole estate where there was a hunting lodge and a pub and this and that, and, you know, the pub and the hunting lodge maybe stayed, or maybe they turned the hunting lodge into a little bed and breakfast hotel, and the pub was always there, and we would go down to the pub, and so John, of course, knew the owners, and they would always treat us well, and we'd have a laugh, you know, every other night or whatever if we were bored. And the owner sat us down at a table. He was giving us lunch, and there were some ladies sitting at a table nearby, and he starts telling this joke to us. And he starts the joke with, so there were these 3 ladies from Essex. And he starts telling the joke.
Yeah, Essex is quite famous.
And he tells the joke, and we all start laughing, and all of a sudden the ladies go, hello, we're from Essex, you know, or whatever, in like these Monty Python kind of voices, but it was their real voices. And he went, oh, more, lunch is on me, you know, he was pretty funny.
Pretty cool.
I got to give a quick shout out to Andrew Walton, who's here. Andrew Walton's part of the British Electric Blues Show, which is a podcast on YouTube and Facebook and everywhere you can find podcasts, I imagine. And they had me on 2 weeks ago to talk about my article about 24 Nights. And I'm forever thankful for that, because that was just an awesome opportunity.
Nice.
And their show is very similar, very laid back, and they talk about blues musicians, British musicians, and just great music. And they have such great attention to detail. and they're great speakers, and it's just a great channel to follow. If you're not subscribed already, do so on YouTube and Facebook.
Mm-hmm.
They're awesome. And this Saturday, they're doing they're talking about Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon at midnight Eastern time. So they're in New Zealand, so that's 6 p.m. their time.
Yeah.
So that should be fun, and I'll be talking on that as well. I guess
Give
some
me a
production
text.
arrangement stuff.
Let me know when that's going to be. You guys.
So I think we're still trying to get Ben in here. Let's see. I'm going to send him this link again because I'd love to have him on.
Meanwhile, you guys were talking before about Lee Dickson.
Oh yes,
and
please.
I had not met him. I didn't know who he was until there was a Who tour that Entwistle needed a bass tech for, and couldn't get his normal guy or whatever, and he wound up using Lee Dickson for his bass tech on a Who tour. And whenever they would come around New York, we'd always get John to come over to a local club in New York City or whatever and jam with us, you know. So after they played Madison Square Garden, Entwistle came over to La Barbat in Manhattan, and he brought, you know, Simon Townsend. John Caron was playing keyboards with the Who at the time, and a few other people that night were there, but Lee Dickson was there.
Yeah.
And after we finished jamming with John, I continued to play with a few friends of mine, and we were doing a bunch of Cream stuff. And so Lee Dickson supposedly called John out of, they were upstairs in some room, you know, partying in some little hideaway room upstairs or whatever. And Lee Dickson supposedly called him out. Hey, come and listen to this guy. And he said something to the effect of, he's got Clapton down better than Clapton. He said to John. And John looks at me and looks at Lee and goes, "That's my guitar player, you arsehole." Or something like that.
That's a compliment.
I met Lee at one of the it was the first auction, and he signed this for me. He signed the book.
Yeah.
I don't know if you can see there, which was quite nice.
Oh, very nice. Yeah. Wow.
And I said to him, because obviously all the, I don't know if did you ever go to see the guitars at the auctions at all? No. Well, this one was at Christie's. Obviously, it wasn't New York, but obviously they'd done a preview in London of all the guitars.
Yeah.
And, I at the time I was how old was I? I was just over 20, and I just went up to him. I said, "Look, could you sign this for me? And can I try one? Can I try a guitar?"
Wow.
Obviously, they were all in line, and obviously, you know, when they had he had a smoking. Obviously, he used to put his cigarette in the headstock. Well, Fender made him one that actually was. He used to smoke Rothman cigarettes, and they made him one with a brass plate in the top of the headstock
to stick it in.
And it was, I think, you could have I think it was for the Japanese market, you could have a smoking or a non-smoking model.
So when you go to a store and you say, "Can I have an Eric Clapton Strat?" they would say smoking or non-smoking.
Yeah. Well, this one, I mean, you can actually see. I mean, this when they done this was the 91 when they done the George Harrison shows in Japan, but this was like the rehearsal.
There's a video of that, where they call Lee, and Lee comes and hands them guitars and stuff, right? Is it?
This guitar, I mean, this was the guitar that Lee handed me.
Wow.
And I had a little go of it, like just acoustically, just to play about with it, fiddle.
Right.
There's a picture of me playing it somewhere. I can't find it. I'm sort of going to try and find it for tonight, but no, it's just quite an interesting story. That
I know, really.
Yeah.
I was going to mention that the only time I ever saw him really working was in that video with George Harrison in Japan, right?
Yeah.
Where they asked him to bring him. Yeah, unbelievable. And, you know, so we never really met. John Entwistle told me that story.
Yeah.
About Lee Dickson and what
Yeah.
he said, and I wound up using it in my bio, in my press kit, like in my resume, about my Clapton show, to advertise my, Clapton show. And then years later, I became friends with Lee on Facebook.
Yeah.
And I asked him, hey, do you remember me? I used to play guitar with John Entwistle, and supposedly you said this about me, and just wanted to know if that was true, because I've been using it in my resume for 10 years, whatever. And he said, oh yeah, I totally remember you. Great, man. Yeah, no, I did definitely say that, whatever. And so he lives in Louisiana. No, he lives in Louisville, Kentucky is where he lives. He lives in Louisville, Kentucky. And we've toured around that way a few times, and we've been on the phone a few times trying to get him to come. He was going to come to the show with his wife or whatever, but him and his wife are also animal rescue people, and they have like 20 dogs in their house and stuff, and he can't leave the house for a long period of time without someone that he can trust to take care of the dogs while they're gone, obviously, so a few times we've missed meeting each other and hanging out with each other, whatever, but we have talked on the phone.
Very quickly, do you know the reason why he stopped
stop working for Eric? I'm not really sure, and I know he did work for him for many years. And,
from 1979 to about, I think it was about 35 years all in total.
Right. And he was originally a lighting guy.
Yeah, he was.
He was originally a lighting guy, and he said Eric just fired his guy and came over to me and said, hey, can you tune guitars? And that was it. Boom, in there, but they had a bit of a falling out maybe or something, or maybe he just wanted to stay close to home because he got into the animal rescue thing, or
I don't know. There's a couple of different stories. I don't know if it was something to do with some pictures or something that he took of his gear, or I don't know the full story.
Yeah. Certainly don't want to repeat anything on the internet that might not be true. He was going to give me a sticker for the back of my 335, the little Hare Krishna sticker that George gave to Eric. And he had said to me in one of our conversations, I have a little present for you, but it's a surprise, and as soon as I find them, I'll have to dig them out somewhere in my basement. I'll send them to you, and I never did get them, but I found some on eBay, that were whatever reproductions or whatever. So I have a bunch of them if you want one. Do you have a 335? Do you have a?
It's one of my. I used to have one, and like a silly guy, I sold it. But
cherry one.
It was Sunburst, but that is my next one. Of my next is to get a 64 stop tail piece, TPC, block neck. But that's another beautiful guitar.
Yeah, I have. And there's the Hare Krishna sticker on the back, as well as you can see it. I have a whole bunch of them if anybody wants them, but this guitar is a monster. So sometimes I'll open my show with the Clapton show. We'll open with Presence of the Lord, and I'll use this, and it's just such a monster. I forget, but this was just like this was a Memphis, and I think
Eric's one, if I remember rightly, he's got like the horns are a bit like they're slimmer, aren't they?
Yeah.
They're like fat horns, and like the ones like Eric's one. I think.
But it came with the Grovers, which is cool.
Yeah.
Grovers, and I got the little custom, the little custom truss rod cover, which was odd.
I like it with top hats on it as well.
Yeah.
The control.
Yeah.
Cool.
But it's a really amazing guitar. I love it. And it was only $1,800,
Yeah.
Chicago Music Exchange.
That's not terrible.
No, I never went after one because I just thought, they're probably so so far out of my price range, and I'm not really going to use it a lot, am I? You know, or whatever. But I couldn't pass up that offer. You know.
Oh, that's great.
I'm going to jump at 8 o'clock. Okay.
Sounds good. Sounds good. I'm seeing John Rowe says ES335, great blues guitar.
Great
Agreed.
blues guitar.
I got a ES339, also Memphis, and it's my first and only Gibson, and it's probably the only Gibson I need because it's just an unbelievable electric guitar. It plays like a dream. Oh, we're gonna get some playing.
Probably not, because I had to turn off my sound, right?
Or can you plug into an amp?
Yeah, but I think it just means I can raise my volume unless it messes things up. I don't know.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
And that's why Clapton is Godfrey.
What time must it be for you over there, Chris?
1 o'clock in the morning here.
Jeez. Okay.
Yeah, long day.
Yeah.
Long day.
Yeah, we got to get some coffee over to you.
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. But
Yeah, we spoke about like 12 hours ago, just talking about what we're gonna maybe mention. So yeah, you must be exhausted.
yeah. But it's great. It's been great. I mean, I've kind of wanted, you know, finding like-minded people.
Yeah.
Who's been into the music that I'm into, like we're into.
Right.
Yeah.
You can kind of go for days, right? You can go for days, and you know, time doesn't exist. You know.
Yeah. No. When I was at school, you know, when I was, you know, in my, you know, I was 10, 11, I was like consumed by it. And there was no one else really that, you know, had the same interest I did. And I felt a bit alone with it, you know. There was a couple of people, but, you know, they were into sort of what they call fashionable music, you know, at the time.
But it did get you through it, didn't it? It did get you through it.
Yeah, and then, you know, then you pick a guitar up and you learn it, you learn a craft, and it's, you know, forever.
An old friend of mine who was in a band with me.
Ben,
can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Hey.
Okay, here I am.
All right, good night, Ben. I gotta go.
All right, see you, Godfrey. Later, Godfrey. Later, Mike.
Yeah.
Later, Andrew. See you guys around.
Yeah.
And so we got Chris Johnston from England. We've got Ben Stein from New Jersey.
Chris, how you doing, bud? Great listening to you earlier.
Thank you.
You got a guitar in your midst?
Mr. Michael here didn't tell me when I was coming on, so I drove over to my parents' house, guitar free.
Guitar free. That's another name that I call
guitar
myself. That's what people used to call me, actually, guitar free.
Guitar free?
Yeah.
Godsmack?
Godsmack.
I remember that one.
Todd used to call me.
Oh, that was Todd. That was Todd.
Yeah.
So we were mentioning before that I met Ben at BB King's in New York City in Times Square at a gig that Godfrey was putting on called Clapton is Godfrey. And do you remember what songs you played that night?
I believe so. I think that night it was
Politician.
It was Politician first, and then Born Under a Bad Sign, was it not? There's the Polymist.
Yeah, the Polymist Gold, but
and
hard to find. the single pickup Firebirds. You know what I mean? So there's a Bonamassa model which
the Joe B
plays.
model, of course.
It plays and sounds just as good as a Gibson, boy. I tell you, right?
But you remember you've loaned me that guitar twice.
Yeah,
that
yeah,
one.
yeah.
That's a really good guitar.
Yeah, it certainly is. So we did Politician one night. I was playing this guitar, and I think you were playing the other one, or
no? I remember that was the plan. I think for the 2019 show, and I had the Polydisc with me that night. But remember, was it feeding back a bit?
Something is.
I'm gonna try turning the mic down here. That was the night that my buddy Matt King brought. Remember his 50.
The gold top,
gold top,
yeah,
and his 52 gold top conversion with a stop tail. And I was just like, I can't let this go. This 52 I've been playing on and off since 2013 when Matt has loaned it to me, and I was like, I got to do the show with one of these guitars.
Yeah, I had the wrong sound on. That sounds more like the Cream era. You know?
Oh yeah.
The Blues Breaker. Yeah.
I've always found the magic with those to be, they're just so dynamic. Firebirds are if you can kind of rein them in and you've got the right bridge pickup, they're a little more forgiving on the front pickup if you're going for like the Johnny Winter thing. They're a little bit more forgiving up there.
It's more tubular sounding, aren't they? They're a little more
very tubular. That's exactly the way to describe it. But
it's
a little more difficult when you're running the back pickup, the bridge pickup on a Firebird, like a Firebird 1 or a 3, 5, 7, whatever. But if you got a good bridge pickup and they're so dynamic that if you just work the volume and tone controls, you get more out of that almost than any other guitar.
Yeah.
It's so dynamic. And that's really, how Clapton used his. I mean, his sound of his Firebird 1 is such a
just
dynamic,
with one pickup, he played a whole night of Cream stuff.
It was a 64 1, and how you can tell a 63 from a 4. 63 was not really a prototype year, but kind of a trial run. You can tell because they didn't have a bird on the pick guard. So.
Oh, really? This guy?
Yeah. So Eric had Eric 64, and I think it's one of the most dynamic sounds he ever had, especially live. You can tell when he's rolling off, the lead pickups, tone control. You can tell when he's rolling off the volume.
Did Mike share that picture with you as well last night? He sent me a picture at one point of Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Stevie Ray with a Firebird.
With a Firebird. Never saw.
I've seen those pictures before. I don't know where those pictures were taken, but I have seen those before.
Thanks, John.
God only knows what that sounded like.
Probably Stevie Ray.
Oh my God.
I see in the chat, Yannick shared the video of Ben with Godfrey at BB King's.
Oh.
So yeah, if you haven't seen that video, check that out and throw a like at it because it's awesome. And I remember there was a chance that I was going to play on that gig too. Godfrey asked me if I would play a song called "Please Be With Me," which is this very quiet, no like guitar featured song. And then I had just met Ben that night too, and then Ben kills it with this unbelievable soloing on Politician and the other song Born Under a Bad Sign. And then I'm like, great, I'm about to go up and play a G chord.
Right.
I can't. But no, guitar is not about competition, and it never should be. But it was just an amazing night, and I didn't get to play that song because there was limited time constraints.
It was an interesting night, the way it played out time-wise, I remember.
Yeah, when you got the audience and they're all like, on the edge of their seats, you can't hit them with a ballad, like acoustic ballad,
Right.
Unless you really want them to leave, unless you really want to get out of there and just go, all right, let's just...
It's okay.
Let's play the music to clear a room by selection.
Well, remember, that's one of the beauties of we all love BB King so much. I mean, the legendary venue it was, and also what it provided you, Godfrey, and you for almost 20 years, and Michael and I, and people coming to see shows there. I mean, I probably saw Eric Johnson there 3 or 4 times.
Were we at the same one with Barnett?
We were.
Yeah.
We all kind of linked up at that. What I was thinking was BB's was very special, but the great thing about Godfrey ultimately moving that show to the space at Westbury Theater was obviously
Big stage,
huge stage, capacity of like 1,200 people, and Godfrey's ability here to really create a show, really recreate the show, make it your own, bring on more people, make it this big ensemble. Michael, myself,
Murphy and his daughter,
Maddie,
singing,
Maddie
background.
Murphy,
It was like this huge band. Mark Newman playing
we were
slide.
able to-
Doing the Dwayne Allman part, for the Derek and the Dominoes stuff.
And we had Madeline, filling in the Marcy Levy spots, and other female vocalists in the background. It was like we really were able to accurately.
Hopefully, we get back to doing that again soon. But
we were.
I have, through this whole COVID thing, I have dreams about that stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna
you gigging, yeah.
I'm gonna jump.
We got to ask one question, one last question for Godfrey and for all of us, I guess, maybe. And we could continue talking after Godfrey jumps, but what is everyone's favorite performance of Layla, starting with Chris?
Oh, Jesus.
Chris.
I think it's probably, when I think of it straight away, it's probably Prince's Trust 1988.
Okay.
In the Albert Hall. He's playing
gray suit. He's wearing a gray suit, I think.
He's wearing a grey suit with a dark shirt. That's right. Mark Knopfler's there. Elton's playing. Phil's on drums. Oh no, I was Phil.
Steve Ferroni, I think.
Yeah. And it's quite fast. It's actually quite a fast version, but. Yeah, it's you got just to Prince's Trust 1988, Layla, and it'll come up. There's so many. I mean, Birmingham. I love the Queen's Jubilee in 2002. That was quite a slow version, but I still liked it. There's like the 1990. The different. Just loads, but I think for me that one is the one.
Before we skip to Godfrey, you mentioned the Queen's Jubilee concert. At that concert, Clapton was using a different amplifier. He was using the Cornell amps, and you said earlier that you live kind of close to Cornell, Dennis Cornell.
I live, Dennis Cornell. He lives in a place called Southend, which is about half an hour from me, 20 minutes from me. He a good few years ago, he actually lent me one of a Custom 80, which is what Eric's amp is. And he used that on that gig, and he used it at the Concert for George gig.
That's like the two-type power twin.
And that was kind of a basis of what Fender then done, obviously on the Twinolux, but obviously it was a bit more. You had a 3-stage attenuation rather than just a 2 on the Cornell. But yeah, it was lovely. But again, one of those things that you've got to crank it to get the best out of it.
Ben knows about that.
I was going to say the same thing.
I play very loud. I make no apologies for it.
Yeah, I got one of those blues breaker combos.
Yep.
And when I finally got it here to my house, I turned it on and tried to put it past 2, and all the windows were rattling. And I just said, I'll never be able to play this amp in this house for sure. And of course, these guys come over and they're like, let's play it on 10 and see what it sounds like. Even just for a few seconds, or whatever.
I remember this day, and it was so funny because I remember we were either texting back and forth, Godfrey, or on Facebook Messenger or something, and you said that you were like, I got the Blues Breaker, and with greenbacks, and I can't, you know, it's so clean on 2, and I'm like, and I was just thinking, I'm like, oh, well, of course it's super clean on 2. Here, let me show you how to set it. So, you know, I took presence, mid, treble, all on 10, volume 1 10, volume 2 10, bass on 0. It tightens it up, and I was just like, this is how you use the Blues Breaker. And we had the Les Paul, and just ignited it in your living room.
Yeah.
We had it on 10 for 1 minute, and then I wanted to try it, but we already probably caused a 5-alarm fire with it.
Yeah.
I can remember breaking into one many years ago and thinking, is this it? Is this what it sounds like? Obviously, because it was very low volume, and I didn't understand at that time.
Right.
I didn't quite understand, you know, that you've got to drive a valve amp to make it sing. And I plugged it in. I thought, it sounds shit. It sounds crap. You know, it's like, what's that? And then obviously, you know, as you get a bit more proficient with the instruments and you get a bit more with gear, you understand about you've got to drive the amp to make it sound good. And then, you know, I've obviously since played a few, and they're great amps. But obviously, right environment.
Well, he supposedly played it on 10 in the studio, right, when they did the album.
Oh, yeah.
And I just thought, where was the rest of the band in the building across the street? Across the street.
It shocked the band. It supposedly shocked the engineers. They're like, we can't record this. They're like, how are we going to do this? And Eric was just like, oh, this is how I play. This is how I play.
I think when they brought the Blues Breakers Beano album to get mastered, they wrote on the envelope, distortion is intended. We intended to sound this way, yeah.
Well, you can kind of hear it on some of the tracks on Beano. I mean, what they did, you know, it was one of the early examples of room miking a guitar amp, and it was kind of born out of necessity for controlling, you know, a JTM 45 on 10 in a small room. So that's kind of one of the first examples of room miking a loud guitar amp, and it was just born out of like, oh my god, you know, this is destroying like our ribbon mics, and you know, what are we gonna do? And so that's how they controlled the.
So going back to your question earlier, what's everyone else's favorite version of Layla?
Yes, good call.
Mine is, I think it was November 1970, Criteria Studios in Miami, Florida.
The original.
Yeah. I mean, there's just nothing like it, you know. Watching the Tom Dowd documentary, you know, Language of Music or whatever it's called, where he's just sitting there playing with the faders and pulling things in and out of the mix. And then you got this coming in, and then, you know, he's pulling in, you know, all these different guitars from all over the place. It's just amazing. I don't see how it could be done better, you know. You know, there's all great players that can add something to it or take it somewhere differently or whatever, but to think that was done 50 years ago, you know, by a bunch of guys who were pretty high, you know, most of the time, you know, wow, you know. And when he first played it for Patty, supposedly, she just kind of went,
nice.
you know, and he went, damn.
She liked Bell Bottom Blues a lot.
Oh, she should. It's a good song.
Did you? I guess you've all seen the film.
Which one?
Live in 12 Bars.
Yes.
I've got it on DVD. I haven't watched it yet, though. I just got it like a little while ago, and I wanted to pick the right night to really get into it. I watched the Jeff Beck one I got. Still on the Run is a good one as well, you know. Really, really good, you know. So, yeah.
I went to the original screening of that when it came, the first night, and right at the end of it, they done a live feed with Eric and Lily Zanuck, obviously the director of the film, and I think it was Jules Holland that interviewed them.
Wow.
And that was quite good. It was like an hour's worth of the interview afterwards about the film and about Eric's life, and I felt there was. I mean, I won't spoil it for you, but there was.
There's a surprise ending.
Well, no, it's all different. there was. I just felt that there was bits missed out. Like there was like almost like a lot of the '80s that were kind of missed. They were just, you know.
Someone
like,
said that. I remember someone making that remark. Like it was all kind of out of.
It was me.
It wasn't chronological, and there was like stuff left out and whatever. But you know, I mean, what don't you know about his career at this point? From everything you've seen, you know, from the Bravo one that was on years ago. You remember the one? You know, that was one of the first ones I've ever seen about him or whatever, you know. So, all right, I'm going to run.
Thank you, Godfrey. Godfrey Townsend.
Let's do it again.
Check out Godfrey Townsend on Facebook and also godfreytownsend.com for a lot of great stories, pictures, and music. Thanks, Godfrey.
Thanks for having me. Nice to meet you, Chris, and nice to see you, Ben. God, it's been forever. Thanks, Mike.
See you soon, guys.
No problem.
What do I do? Just press.
You're in here forever now.
All right. Can't go. All right. Bye.
And Ben, we're up to you for your favorite version of Layla.
Well, I was going to go with Godfrey's example, actually, because I will say, you know, I'm quite impressed by, you know, both of your knowledge, you and Chris, both of your knowledge about very specific later performances of Eric's. So, I mean, the studio recording, you know, I mean, I first heard that, you know, very early on, you know, as a kid, knowing about Clapton. So that holds a special place in my heart, of course. There was one of the Madison Square Garden performance in the many thousands, you know, probably, I think, maybe early 2000s. I think Doyle was on guitar with him. It was just, you know, just Eric came in, the riff sounded huge. It was just, you know, I can't remember other details really, but it was, I believe it was the Garden with Doyle. Yeah, the rest of the ensemble, if you will, escapes me, but that was a pretty magical one.
Yeah. I think I know what you're talking about. Mine is also from Madison Square Garden, my favorite version of Layla. It's the one from 1999, the one that if you just type in Layla Eric Clapton, it's probably the first video that comes up.
It could be it. Quite honestly.
Where Andy Fairweather Low is on backup guitar and David Sanborn plays saxophone through the outro, and Clapton just does that incredible solo in the middle of it.
Yeah,
it's just unbelievable.
The one I'm thinking of might be a little later because I do think it was Doyle on guitar.
It could be a Crossroads or something like that. I don't know.
It might.
I'm not sure.
Garden, but I'm not entirely sure. Yeah.
But yeah, it's just a great song.
It's just like I say, all the different versions have just. I said to you earlier, Mike, that all different versions almost take on a life of their own.
Yeah.
You know, obviously every solo is different, and it's always going to be like that. But it's just everyone has a different approach and a different style, different sound. You know, but yeah, there's so many choices of the song because it's, you know, it's been played and played and played. But what was your sort of first exposure to the unplugged version? Was it the original, like watching the original 1992 performance? Ben,
you want to go first?
My first my exposure to the unplugged version.
Yeah.
Actually, I had to think about that for a sec, Chris. I remember we had some class project in like 7th grade. So this is like 2006, maybe. I'm the youngest one here now. I'm younger than Michael here by like.
I'm the oldest.
Godfrey was the youngest one.
So yeah, it was like 7th grade. I had a buddy of mine who played guitar as well in whatever class it was. I forget what. But we were buddies. You know, we both played guitar. He knew a lot more about I was kind of going through like a GNR phase, stuff like that, you know, mid 80s rock. I was kind of going through a phase like that at the time. And I think there was some class assignment to like write a song and perform it in front of the class, which was pretty cool. And he got up there with his group, my friend who played, and he played this very, very cool riff on acoustic. And I was thinking to myself, like, oh my God, you know, he's playing this really, really cool, like soulful this lick and riff on acoustic. I was like, how'd he come up with this? Only to find out 4 or 5 years later that for the project, he just took the Layla Unplugged riff.
Oh my God.
So I was like, it was Eric Clapton who wrote that riff.
Wow.
So
Wow.
So interestingly, my first exposure to you know, what's become known as the unplugged version, you know, or the one that he's played on acoustic, that was my first exposure to it. And then I, you know, eventually, you know, saw and listened to the unplugged recordings, and I was like, wow, you know, there's that.
Yeah.
I can say my story behind it was that I was at a doctor's office and it was just on the radio. It was just playing and I was like, what's this? That sounds like Eric Clapton. And I liked it, and then I found it, and I didn't know that he had an unplugged phase or whatever. So that was cool to find, and that's what got me into wanting a Martin guitar. And then I wanted a guitar that felt like his Clapton Strat. I wanted it to feel that comfortable.
There you go.
And I tried a bunch of Martins that had thicker necks, and I was like, I need to have this Clapton Martin as well.
I need a V-neck.
I can just remember thinking at the time, you know, because I loved it. I loved Unplugged, but I thought, well, I hope he plays electric again, thinking that he was going to play Unplugged forever. But it was a one-off show, wasn't it?
Right.
It'd be like following suit with Al Di Meola, where there was an extended period where I'm a big fan of Al Di Meola. There was that extended period where he completely swore off, you know, playing Les Pauls into Marshalls and stuff like that because his tinnitus got so bad. And then 3 years ago, he was like, nah, I'm better. I'm going to play electric. I'm fine. Turn my amp around. So.
Right. Doesn't Eric Johnson do that? He just like faces it towards a wall.
No, he angles
or plexiglass.
Angles them away a bit. He angles the cabinets a bit. Yeah, that was the last I saw of his.
When we saw him at BB King's, Eric Johnson, I just remember how loud it was because we were sitting towards the front, even though BB King's is basically just like a small club, fits like 100 to 200 people, I guess.
I think I've been there. I went to New York. I came to New York in 2001, April 2001, just before September the 11th.
Right.
I think we went into BB King's, like the restaurant there. Obviously, they had Jack. Yeah.
Lucille's.
Yeah, and had some dinner in there, and a drink. Yeah, it was great.
That's it. What a great room. I missed that spot.
Yeah. I was there the day that BB King passed away because I just wanted to, I guess, be there and kind of just celebrate his life with other people. And there was one other guy in there who said that he knew BB and was just telling some stories, and BB's music was playing on the speakers, and there were people outside with like a shrine to BB King, like the day it happened that he passed away. So that was kind of incredible, like history to be at BB King's on that day.
I believe my my dad, when he was still at ABC, I know this happened. I'm not 100% sure that the venue's correct, but I believe that my dad and his partner that he was working with at ABC News out of Times Square, they interviewed BB on stage there, I believe.
Oh, wow.
They did, and I can't remember if it was specifically at BB King's or not. I think it was. That's why I bring it up. But it's one of his, my father's favorite memories of working in New York at Good Morning America and ABC News was that he got to interview BB in New York.
Yeah.
Wow.
The only time I saw BB, the only time I saw BB was at he come on. It was in 1998 at Earl's Court in London, and he come on right at the end with Body Break. And I was sitting right at the back, and Earl's Court is a massive place, and the sound's all over the place. But yeah, he come on, and obviously that was the Pilgrim tour, and he come on right at the end, and done a couple of songs. I can't remember what they were, but he done that. Yeah, with Bonnie Raitt as well. There's a couple of encores, and that was it. I'd never seen him. That was the only time I saw him live.
Yeah, he was a storyteller. He was funny. He had some jokes in his set which were about him just like going to shopping malls and just being bored out of his mind.
That's good.
I mean, and his influence on Eric Clapton, of course, is also,
Yeah.
something of note as well.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
The Three Kings, rather. I mean,
Freddie is huge.
Freddie. I mean, of the three, Freddie is probably the biggest, as far as what Eric talks about, and as far as what you hear in Eric's phrasing.
Oh yeah.
It's Freddie is by far. I mean, the Three Kings as a whole, influenced him immensely. But oh yeah, you hear tons of Freddie.
Oh yeah. Freddie's just unbelievable. All of them were.
They're all great.
I think I want to ask maybe one or two more questions, just because we've been going for almost 3 hours, and
Yeah.
you probably have to get to sleep. So, yes. Sorry that maybe we'll start a little bit earlier, but we also want
I'll try to
make
figure
sure
out my
that
account next time and get the mic hooked up and all that, and not take 2 hours to do that.
no problem, and I'll get you in much sooner. We'll start all together. So okay, let's talk about just two more things, and that's favorite gear of Eric's, and then I'll get to the last question afterwards. So let's start with Ben. What's your favorite Eric Clapton gear? It could be a favorite guitar, favorite amp, or effect.
I'll go with all the above. I'm a gear nut. That's kind of what I've become known around these parts as. Well, I mean, I'm a cream guy. I'm a cream guy. I focus on Eric's cream days to the nines.
Right.
And the rig that I always think of with Eric, I mean, there are all kinds of other amps throughout the years. I mean, even a Dumble Overdrive Special later on, and a 100-watt combo, he played through.
When was he using that Dumble?
He still owns it. I think one of the Garden shows from like 2 years ago, he came out with I think his a stereo rig. I think of his Tweed Bandmaster, which is modified Dumble, Tweed Bandmaster, and a 112 Overdrive Special.
Okay.
It was a 2-amp rig. But anyway, back to favorite gear. I always think of there were 2 stacks that often. I mean, I don't know how many heads he had in the late '60s. Probably a lot coming out of Jim Marshall's shop. But what I always think of are the 2 oversized bottom cabs, slant cab, Marshall Super Tremolo on top. You can tell the difference because it's got 8 knobs, and a super lead or a super bass. And that's what you're most likely hearing on Live Cream, both volumes. Wheels of Fire. You're most likely hearing guitar into a wah, into a Y cable out to both of those amps, all on 10. That's the rig. And I mean, as far as guitars, it's debated what was used on the live recordings. And of course, there's not a whole lot of video documentation other than, the Albert Hall, Goodbye Cream, and a few other stuff. There, just because of, the years that took place, there aren't really any bootleg videos to be found, really. So my point being, it's often debated, what guitar did he use on Live Cream, blah, blah, blah. Most people these days tend to say the 64 SG. Some people are like, oh no, it was Eric's 64 335. I tend to agree with Godfrey is one of them as well. I believe it was the SG that was used on, say Wheels of Fire, stuff like that. So I always think of that, it's got the paint job. It's just so recognizable. And it's just one of the most recognizable and most influential on me guitar tones of all time. As well as, the Sunburst Les Paul into the Bluesbreaker combo. I mean, that guitar, the year recently has actually been debated a little bit. you know, for many years because Eric said, oh, you know, it was a thin neck, you know, people at Gibson who recreated it and other people who were into, you know, younger Gibson playing Eric were like, oh, it must have been a 1960 Les Paul. But there have been little bits and pieces of information from a couple different sources saying they know where the Beano burst is. One was Joe Bonamassa. He eventually took that back and was like, oh, I was just fooling around. I don't really know where it is. But he's like, yeah, I don't know. He said it's a 59. Could be a late 59 or an early 60, you know, the way it faded. But yeah, anyway, to condense this a bit, favorite gear, there you go. Beano into cream. Those Marshalls, those Gibsons, that's kind of the sound I associate with it. So
Yeah, I would have to agree. I like the Bluesbreaker Beano tone, as everyone does. I think that's a top tone that Eric has had. And then the SLO, the Soldano 100, which you just played yesterday.
We were just talking about, yeah.
The Soldano SLO 100 into the Marshall 1960B cabinet. That's my favorite tone.
Yeah.
Again, like I told you over Messenger, I think, Mike, my theory is, you know, having played that particular SLO that you saw, my friend Adam's 1992 SLO 100, that amp is so different on the first channel and the second channel. And my guess is for Journeyman, stuff like that, my guess is that Eric just cranked the clean channel way up and hit it with the mid boost. That's what that sounds like to my ears.
Yeah,
it's either that. I don't think he used, because I don't think he used like the high gain stage. Like, I think
exactly.
I don't think he ever used that. I think he might have gone over to the crunch channel, possibly. But well, yeah, I tend to agree. You know, obviously he's got it whacked up.
First channel just whacked up. Yeah, that's how I think Eric was using his SLO.
Yeah.
Wow.
And obviously he had the massive Pete Cornish rig.
Exactly.
Effects, didn't he? So again, there's lots of processing going on there.
That's right.
It would have been, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think he used the Soldano up until about 1994, because he used it on the From the Cradle gigs.
Album and tour, yeah.
But without all the massive effects and stuff, it was just literally into the head.
Plug straight in.
Right.
And out.
Yes.
Because I was going between that and Twins, wasn't he? At the time.
Low power Twins.
He had a Twin stage and he had the SLO.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, low power Tweed Twins. Yep.
Yeah. And I think that's my favourite. You know, the amp wise is either a cross between the SLO and like the, you know, the Hyde Park or the Legends.
Hyde Park, yeah, that's the great one.
That sound is just it's just amazing. And guitar wise, it's probably, you know, it's got to be a Strat, and it's got to be it's probably his pewter Strat. I just think with the flame maple neck, and it was just like it looks so good you could eat it. Never mind play it. You know, for me. You know, I love his 335, and I love Blackie. You know, Blackie. I say that 85 concert where he played Blackie, almost like it was crying when it was like playing, saying that it's coming to an end. It's not going to be. This is it, sort of thing.
It's a fitting send off for Blackie in '85.
Yeah, and Live Aid as well, obviously. And you know, when I thought of a guitar, it was the classic, you know, black guitar with a maple neck, you know, and that's what Blackie was, wasn't it?
56 and 57 parts. Yep.
Yeah, it was a mongrel
out of parts out of Nashville. Yeah.
Yeah, Showbud, was it Showbud music?
That's it, Showbud.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. And he just put it all together, probably drunk, and
sat there, had a few drinks, and you know, he says that he was able to figure out, you know, which set of pickups he liked better. Neck he favored, you know, the black body, which I don't think was a refin. I think it was actually a custom color 57 body.
Yeah. I think you're right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, obviously the neck was so worn out, wasn't it? But he's saying that the E string used to sort of slip off like that, where he'd worn it away.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
I've been up close. I've been up close with Blackie a few times. Never played Blackie, but I've been up close with it, going back to like 2013. And I remember that, just seeing how worn it was, at the upper register around where Eric's thumb would lay. And
Yeah,
that's often an issue with a vintage Strat neck, is like, oftentimes they're just very narrow, and you have that issue. Same thing happened, I think, with Stevie Ray's number 1. It had just worn so much from the thumb, Blackie, that low E string is just right at the edge. So I remember seeing that as well, Chris. Yeah.
there's a thing actually in that Live '85 concert. He's playing Same Old Blues, and there's that you can see that where the camera is, it's about here, and you can see it's almost like the action looks massive, looks really high.
Yeah.
But it's almost like, and I think he sometimes he misses the string or something. But yeah, I think it's just obviously where it was old, and
That was obviously the year he retired it. Right after that.
Yeah.
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 That performance of Same Old Blues, it starts at like the tempo that we're used to, and then it gets to the slowest thing I've ever heard, especially that performance from 1985.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Or
Yeah.
You guys are
They
better
just-
with that. I actually I either don't know or don't remember.
check out that video. Jamie Oldacre is on drums, but I think Clapton is setting the tempo, and it's just very slow.
That's very
Yeah.
The version from Montserrat in 1997, when he's with
talked about
Sting.
earlier.
Sting and Mark Knopfler and Phil Collins, that version, and he's playing the gold leaf Strat. That's my favorite version of that.
Which, by the
Yeah.
way, Chris is gorgeous, because I tuned in earlier right when you pulled out the gold leaf Strat, and I was like, oh my God, he's got the gold leaf Strat.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
opened up Facebook earlier when I was still at my place before I got here, and I was like, oh my God, he's got the gold leaf Strat.
Right.
It's very cool.
It's unbelievable.
Very
Wow.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's do last question, just because it's getting late.
Sure.
And this might be a difficult question, but I think it's good. What makes Eric special? What makes Eric so great? Start with Ben.
All right, you know what? I think I actually got the answer for this. And
Thanks, Yannick, for posting. Sorry.
thank you, Yannick. And thank you for posting me earlier. Not to plug myself, I hate doing that, but this kind of ties in with how I discovered Eric as a young kid. So I mentioned earlier, my dad worked at ABC News, interviewed a bunch of really cool people, one being B.B. King, as I mentioned. And I can't remember who came around one day to the studio, but it was 2005. I was 9 years old. I've been playing guitar for about a year, almost 10. So a year and a half. I started playing when I was 8. And I was into, modern rock, but was also very open to blues rock stuff, which is still my preferred genre when I play. Jazz, that was around the house. Rock and roll, stuff like that. So my dad knew what I was into as a little boy, and he came home with a free copy of the newly released, Chris, you said you were there, Cream Reunion. So my dad came home with, the orange CD that we recognize. Yeah. And he was like, hey, Ben, have you ever listened to the band Cream? They're from the era of music that you're starting to like. And I was like, no, I've heard of them. And my dad was like, oh, well, I pretty much grew up with them. You'll really like this guy, Eric Clapton. And I was like, oh, okay. So I had, this ancient, boombox from the early 90s still in my bedroom at the time that my parents had just bequeathed to me. And I think I actually told this part of the story to Godfrey or to the crowd at one of the Clapton shows. The joke is coming, I promise. It's not that funny, but I put it on, and as I'm listening to it, I'm listening to this guitar tone. I'm like, oh, it was a Stratocaster on the middle pickup through Tweed Twins. Ultimately, I found out, and I'm like this guitar playing, this is, and I'm only like 9, and I'm hearing like I'm really taking this all in, and I'm going through the liner notes while I'm listening, and I was like, who are these guys? These guys are really old, and they sound really good. Like, who are these old guys playing rock? They must have just formed this band. So, only for me to find out later on, I eventually figured it out. My dad was like, no, here's Disraeli Gears. That was my dad's favorite record. He was like, this was released in 1967. And I was like, oh, that makes sense. And that's when I realized it was the reunion show. But here I am as this young kid, and I'm listening through the 2 CDs in there, and I had just never heard someone with such punctuation, emotiveness, emotion, and just the singing quality to the electric guitar. I had never, ever come across that. And I still seldom hear anything rival that. And I think that's what makes, Clapton special. And I think that's what created this lasting influence on me, because it's never left. I still have that same CD. I don't have CD players anymore. My car doesn't have one. But I have that, on my iPhone now. And I've been listening to that since I was 8 years old. And I have never once tired of anything from that show. So I envy you, Chris, for being there, because that was like the show that got me into blues rock. It really was. That's how I discovered Clapton, Cream, Jack Bruce, Ginger, those guys. And that has stuck with me for my entire life. That style of music, that style of guitar playing. And that's what I think, makes, not just the guitar playing, but the music of Eric Clapton so special to me.
Yeah. Oh.
Chris? That's a good answer. That's a good answer.
Yeah, that was a good answer. Good answer. I'm probably going to be quite lame, but it's hard for me to put my finger on it. I think if I were just approaching it just as a listener, not a musician, putting that aside, you could argue he always said that he was like a guitarist. He was like a guitarist that can fit into every single genre, but always put the blues in somewhere. And I like that analogy that he's very he's versatile to so many different genres. People say, oh, Jimi Hendrix is the man, and obviously quite rightly so. But if Clapton was around long before, well, in the spotlight, I think, long before Jimi Hendrix was. I know Jimi Hendrix obviously had, I don't know too much about the history of him, but, I think there was a point where Eric was a bit more, well, it was prevalent. He obviously worked with the Yardbirds, and, it started to come through. But I just think, for me, when I sort of like found out about him and sort of like, obviously what I was saying to you earlier about August, and I know that's it's a totally different thing from the Cream thing. I had to discover Eric in the 80s to go back to the 60s to see where he kind of started from. I don't know what it is. It's just something about his phrasing. As I say, sometimes I've seen him live, and I just thought, oh, Eric, you're going through the motions again. You're just earning the money tonight. You're just playing it safe. But then other times I see him, it's like, sometimes it will play like, Old Love. I've seen him play Old Love and solo. It's just, it's incendiary. It's just
incendiary.
Yeah.
Amazing. It's just, and it's almost like it's like Jaws coming up to grab something, and then it goes down again into the sea. It's like it's there, and it comes up every now and again. Again, you know, it's inevitable. He gets old. You know, he's the oldest. You know, he's in his mid-70s now. So the faculties that it's inevitable. They'll go. They will start to go, but they will come to the surface every now and again. And that's those little moments is worth the ticket price alone, you know, for going.
Absolutely.
Also, an
probably
amazing answer.
a long-winded answer there, but you know, I can't quite pinpoint one thing about it. It's just he's got something, and I don't know what that something is.
And that's great too, Chris. You know, like that's a great point, and that, you know, he quite literally is timeless in a way. It's like, yes, he's getting older. You know, he's in his mid-70s. He's what, 75, almost 76 now, and it's inevitable that, you know, the playing will start to deteriorate. You know, we're humans. We're finite. You know, everyone referred to him as God, but he's a human. But what's quite incredible is the fact, you know, even these newer shows in the past few years, that excellence and emotion and just like Jaws coming up and just grabbing everybody, like you said, Chris, it's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, it's not as prevalent as it was like maybe like in the 90s, where I said earlier, I think that's his, you know, I think that was at his peak.
Right.
But there's certain songs that, you know, when he done like last year, or the last time he was at the Albert Hall, when he done Electric Layla again. Now, it wasn't the best version in the world, but it's just those 7 notes, to hear it again played live. I would have paid that. I would have paid just the concert price, ticket price for that, just to hear that. You know,
it triggers something. It triggers.
Yeah.
It triggers that emotion of when you first heard it, or love, or whatever the song makes you feel.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you know, it's an emotion that I could be driving sometimes and listening to it, and all of a sudden, you play something. Wow.
You just said it. He knows how to capture emotion of whatever type of song he's playing. If he's playing a love song, if he's playing an angry, aggressive song, he can recreate that sound on his guitar.
Yeah.
Or with his voice.
He's singing with his hand, isn't he?
Right. Right. He has that control, and he can be quiet, or he can be loud and epic and whatever he needs to be. And the fact that he has that control, and he can take an audience on a ride with his solo, like an Old Love. He could start quiet and then he can end loud, or he could start loud and then go quiet. And he's got the audience in the palm of his hands the whole time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's, to me, his brilliance, that he can tell a story no matter what song he's playing. And he doesn't play anything the same way twice, which if I were playing a big stage, you kind of have to prepare something before, because you want to play well for people, and you want to be remembered. You want to create something memorable. He's already done that, and he's trying new things every time.
Yeah.
And if it's a good night, then it's a good night, and if it's not a good night, whatever. But when he has these on nights, he's just on another level.
It's really
and
magical.
Yeah.
It's magical indeed. And the people that get to witness it at these concerts are very fortunate, and thank God for, you know, video, that we can rewatch these things and study them and learn, because that's how I've learned everything that he does.
I mean, me too. And, you know, thank God for the internet. And, you know, as I say, when I started, you know, back in the 80s, you know, there was no internet. You know, there was no. I didn't have a DVD player. So all I had was audio cassette and VHS. You know, watching cassettes. That was stop, rewind, stop, rewind, stop, rewind, and that's how I learned. You know.
Yeah.
Doing it over and over again.
And now you can slow down YouTube videos to 0.25 speed and learn the Crossroads solo in 10 days.
Yeah.
So I used the reunion show DVD for. Just watched it. I had the CDs
Yeah.
and the DVD, and I just watched and watched and watched and watched.
Yeah.
The playing on that album is just unbelievable. The solos that he constructed, they have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And he didn't even intend on doing that. That's the way he thinks, or that's the way that his hands move.
Well, it's like that solo. It's like that solo in the Birmingham '86 Layla solo, and it's just that it's almost like it's a pure story going from start all the way through, and it's
Right.
You know, that's the only way I can describe it. It's a story.
Yeah, it's like a David Gilmour solo, a studio solo, but Eric just made it up live.
Yeah.
He just improvised it.
Yeah.
But that's just an incredible
that's the brilliance
thing to do.
That's the thing that's just amazing. And
yeah. And we have to mention how good his voice is, because I haven't seen a video of him sing out of tune. It's hard to find one where he's singing out of tune.
Yeah.
And to do that for a full song and be pretty much pitch perfect and sing with the emotion that he sings with, that's hard. And singing songs like Crossroads, well, that'll hurt your throat, because he's like singing a certain way, like a bluesy, husky way. That could do damage to your voice. But he just nails it every time. He nails whatever he's singing.
Yeah.
And he can kick it up a notch or take it down, and that just goes back to his control. He's just in control of his voice, and whether that be his vocals or guitar.
Yeah. No.
And that's the sign of a master. That's what makes him him.
It will be a sad day when that inevitable day comes when he is no longer on this planet. It's just one of those going to happen. I know, but it's just you think of all the turmoil he's been through in his life, and all the substances he's put into himself, and the drink and the whatever. But obviously it will happen one day. But
but he'll live on, because people will be talking about him forever. So
yeah.
We just have to enjoy him while he's here, and
if you can get the opportunity to see him, then just do it. Just do it.
Yeah.
It's only money.
Right. I do. I have a friend who was on the fence about going to a Clapton concert. She said finances are kind of tight this month, and then I said I'd help her out, and then she said, actually, I'll go. She just decided to go, and I saw her at the show, and she had a great time. And she said, I didn't convince her. She convinced herself, but she's happy that she went. And if you have the opportunity to go to a Clapton concert, you'll be so happy.
It's an experience worth living in person.
Yeah. And they go by so fast. If he's playing 15 songs, an hour and a half flies, and you're like,
oh yeah.
What?
Just goes.
It's just, you're just waiting to hear a new lick or a new phrase that he hasn't done before.
It's an unbelievable high. It's a euphoric feeling. It really is.
Yeah. It's the best. All right. So I think we'll have to do this again, because there's so much we didn't talk about.
Yeah.
We'll get on here earlier. Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Figure out.
Thank you so much. What was that?
I was just going to say.
What was that, Ben?
Figure out how to use the mic quicker. That's all.
Oh yeah, we'll get that going. So yeah, thank you so much, Chris Johnston and Ben Stein. If you're not following them already,
Pleasure to meet you. And
and you.
with you. Yeah, pleasure.
If you're not following them,
If I could come to the
please
stage,
follow
we
them.
could all jam.
Yeah.
Yes. Do you know Layla?
Oh, do I? Oh, yes.
Do I?